which is a fundamental security problem to the United States. I mean, Iran is a threat, continues to be a threat. Now we have it on sort of back on its heels, and it's time to finish the job in a sense. And I don't mean militarily, but I mean diplomatically.
Yeah, it is interesting to watch the reporting of it, because whether they intentional or not, there was it'd be a weird thing to be gleeful about, that it didn't work for a lot of entities in mainstream media. I get it. What do we think, David, that the 300 feet below the ground, some of the structures may still be intact, so that the bunker busters did not completely is that what the report is saying? And how is it possible to know at this point? Could satellite images, are we that good at figuring things out to where this agency, and there's a lot of agencies, I think, working on assessing what happened, but for this particular report to come out, what do you think they were basing that on, that the structures are still intact, the building?
Well, I think I think they were dependent on satellite imagery and some communication intercepts, and I don't think they can tell. And also from the reporting, I don't know if they're talking about Fordow or a mountain complex at Esfahan nuclear site. I mean, it's very murky. What we found at Fordow is we have building designs for Fordow from previous or other work we do, and we could geolocate what parts of the site were being targeted. So there's a very important ventilation shaft that comes up from the bottom, from the floor of the centrifuge plant all the way up to the surface. The three holes for the MOPS are right in that ventilation shaft area or ventilation system. So it's kind of a clean shot all the way to the bottom. You're not going through a mountain per se. We also found that the other three were targeted at the end of the centrifuge hall, going through an older structure that had been on the surface and that Iran had covered up back in many years ago. So we think that's a vulnerability in the mountain. And so with these, if these MOPS got through, what they're doing is if they explode, they're creating shock waves that run throughout the complex from two different directions. Right. And so we wouldn't expect the roofs to collapse. We would just expect fire pressure shock waves that would destroy things in their path. And so if it worked, it would be extremely destructive.
Right. So David, explain this though. To the extent we've now read these reports, and the reports are effectively reporting on internal U.S. documents that have been put together, I imagine, by folks in the Pentagon and others, I would imagine they would take a somewhat optimistic view of these things. They wouldn't take a pessimistic view. They would be, or at least trying to take a realistic view. Why would they say what they're saying if, in fact, we think that the entirety of it all was obliterated?
Well, you have to separate it. What is some of the media that leaking this, what are they intending to do, and they want to embarrass Trump? Submitted. The DIA analysts probably were just making an assessment, and we make them too. And what are we thinking of? Yes, we have to be pessimistic sometimes because we have to protect our interests, U.S. interests, and we want to know. We don't want to be blindsided, so you want to do slightly pessimistic assessments so you know, okay, here's a problem we need to solve. And so for us, identifying that there may be remaining stocks of 60% remaining centrifuges means we have to deal with that problem. We can, and it's the residual part of the centrifuge program. There's been massive damage to it, but we have to deal with it. And we think the best way is through diplomacy, and I would say through Mossad continuing to act in Iran, luring people or encouraging people inside the program to come forward to, in a sense, realize your whole career has been shattered. And you can provide some information about what's going on, and we can help you find a new life if it's really important.
Order submitted.
Before the United States got involved, and Israel had done quite a bit to try to degrade the capability, the nuclear capability. I would have thought that even if the United States had not gotten involved, that we weren't talking about just a couple of months at that point. So if it did absolutely nothing on Saturday night, that's what makes me question, as you just said, some of the conclusions of the report through the media or even with the agent, and I don't know who leaked it, but it's really, it's not a good thing, and it's not the first time it's happened with the, you know, with intelligence agencies and President Trump. So, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is harmful, and it inhibits free debate within the intelligence agencies and confuses the public. I mean, who can make sense out of it right now, and yet it's something we need to make sense out of and find ways to move forward.
Order submitted.
You know, the only bright thing I can see in it is that, you know, I worry that President Trump will move on, and this kind of press reporting is a reminder to him that this problem isn't completely solved, but he and particularly Israel have accomplished a tremendous amount to end Iran's enrichment program, and now we need to do the rest, to get the residual parts and do the rest. If you don't, those residual parts will grow and become a threat to the United States.
Right, never going to be easy. Work in progress, but some progress had to have been made at this point. We'll need you again at some point, hopefully. David Albright, Institute for Science and International Security President. Thank you. Squawk Box will be right back.
He sure knows these parts well.
Folks say the planes whisper to him.
Outlaws in 500 feet. Rerouting.
Making a left!
Innovation changes everything.
Man, he's good.
With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
It is amazing. It used to have a collagen, used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum. If you don't know what colostrum is, it is amazing, but it is a bioactive whole food. It has all the essential nutrients you need for your skin, your gut, energy, focus, mood, performance, your hair, like immune system. It strengthens, supports all of that. I think the first thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had after workout, but if you want to try it, we'll try armor.com.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Welcome to CNBC Plus. Where to?
CNBC Plus, on-the-go access to global market data, news, and analysis as it happens. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Vital Farms farmers believe in giving their hens fresh pasture to roam. Some people might say that's a waste of space.
Well, people are entitled to their opinions. What do you girls think?
Vital Farms. Good eggs, no shortcuts.
Oh, what is that musty smell?
Oh, damp.
Damp. Oh, damp.
Hey, language.
Damp-Rid traps excess moisture to
Order
eliminate
filled.
musty smells. Get rid of the damp with Damp-Rid.
I make some good summer barbecue, but I can't match these two hearty barbecue triple stacks from Firehouse Subs. Brisket smoked low and slow, stacked high with turkey and ham, and that slaw crunch, get out of here. Take it from a real firefighter. You gotta try these subs.
When your dog's superhero moment goes sideways. Pumpkin Now, the urgent pay service from Pumpkin Pet Insurance, can pay you for eligible care before you pay the vet. Ask your vet about Pumpkin or visit pumpkin.care and see Superman, only in theaters July.
Welcome back to Squawk Box, everybody. The futures this morning are relatively muted, although we are in the green. Dow futures up another 6 points. S&P futures up by 7.5. Remember, the S&P, after yesterday's gains, now just less than 1% from an all-time high. The NASDAQ closed at an all-time high yesterday, and it has indicated up another 54 points. You did have oil prices pull back significantly once again yesterday. They were down 6% yesterday, 7% the day before. This morning, a slight rebound, but you're talking about WTI back to $64.70 a barrel. And then gold prices, which also have pulled back some over the last couple of sessions, up just barely, $7 this morning to $3,340 an ounce. When we come back, Waste Management CEO Jim Fish just hosted his company's Investor Day. We're going to find out what waste and recycling trends are telling us about the state of the economy and the labor market. Squawk Box will be right back.
At Capital Group, we see active ETFs differently. We collaborate, designing them to remain strong, preparing them to weather the ups and downs of the market. That's what sets our active ETFs apart, so they can be rooted at the core of a portfolio. They're meticulously crafted to endure. Capital Group, actively different, active ETFs.
Order submitted.
Slow down, honey.
A new driver. You'll need new insurance. Zebra compares over 100 insurance companies to find savings no one else can. Up to $400 a year.
Trevor!
Oh, look, it's my stop. The Zebra. We do the searching, you do the saving.
It's time to feed the dogs real food in the right amount. A healthy weight can help dogs live a longer, happier life. The Farmer's Dog makes weight management easy with fresh food pre-portioned for your dog's needs. It's an idea whose time has come.
You've asked me that 3 times already.
I did? This is exactly how it started with Mom.
Worried about your brain health? Cerefolin Brain Wellness has a dual-action formula that slows cognitive decline while improving memory, focus, and concentration. Those taking Cerefolin Brain Wellness experienced a slower rate of brain shrinkage. Now also available without a prescription at cerefolin.com and Amazon.
It changed my mind.
Neurologist recommended Cerefolin Brain Wellness.
Wow, looks like your hiring's making a lot of people happy.
ZipRecruiter's new tool, Zip Intro, is a game changer. It saved me so many steps in the hiring process. Look, I just pick a time, and it handles everything, from finding great candidates to setting up interviews.
So, no more back and forth?
Right. I can just choose from this list and meet with them as soon as tomorrow. Oh, wow. Another dignified portrait of me.
Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Try it free. Only at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
When you partner with CDW, something amazing happens. Cloud transforms the way you work and learn. Security protects critical data and stays ahead of threats. AI finds new opportunities and more sustainable strategies. CDW designs and builds custom services and solutions so you get more out of your technology. Make amazing happen. CDW.
Don't miss a members-only event.
The club is really about empowerment, empowering you to manage your own money.
Join the CNBC Investing Club to access Jim's monthly meeting. Go to cnbc.com/monthly meeting.
Welcome back, everybody. Waste Management hosting its Investor Day here in New York City yesterday. And joining us right now to talk about market trends, labor, and much more is Jim Fish. He's the CEO of Waste Management. Jim, welcome. It's good to have you here on set with us.
Good to be here.
So you talked about some pretty aggressive numbers
for
2027. 2027, you're looking for revenue of somewhere between $28.5, $29.25 billion.
Order
Adjusted
submitted.
operating EBITDA somewhere between $8.85 billion and $9.15 billion. I mean, those seem like aggressive goals. I was surprised to see the stock traded off just slightly, down maybe 0.25% yesterday.
Yeah, it's always hard to predict what the stock's going to do day in and day out, but
those were more aggressive goals than
I think they were. They were more aggressive than they expected. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the stock trade up. But I mean, look, when we look at it over the long term, over 10 years, it's been up 500% almost, which is kind of almost 2.5 or 3 times what the Dow's been up. So really the story yesterday was, what are we going to do going forward to drive those types of numbers? It's really driven by a couple of things. It's driven by sustainability, not just to feel good about ourselves, but really to drive strong returns for shareholders. It's driven by technology. It's driven by healthcare and our strong business.
Let's talk about some of those divisions, because you are expecting some
Order
really
filled.
impressive growth in revenue, especially for the sustainability business, 14 to 15%.
Yeah.
That's a big jump. How does that work? Who pays for these things? Where do you see the growth?
So the big investments that we
Order
announced a
filled.
few
Order
years ago,
canceled.
about $3 billion worth of investments, about half of it in automating our recycle plants, and then the other half was in renewable natural gas. And And those automations reduce, when we automate those plants, we're reducing labor by 35%.
Order submitted.
Not because we want to let anybody go, just because those jobs tend to turn over pretty quickly. And at the same time, we're improving the quality of the material coming out of the back end of the plant. So those have really nice returns. And then these renewable natural gas plants, the landfill produces gas, and so why not take that gas and turn it into renewable natural gas, which, by the way, then powers our fleet. Our fleet is about 75% CNG, so you're creating a full circle there. And because you have a CNG fleet, you can sell the RIN credits, which make that a really good business for us as well.
And the Healthcare Solutions Unit, that's for waste coming out of hospitals, everything from the normal waste that would be coming out, but to some of the hazardous stuff too, like sharps, needles, and things.
Yep.
That's a specialty business.
It is, but I guess if I were to ask you a decade ago what businesses are going to be really good going forward, I mean, we are aging as a population. I read that 1980 we were an average age of 29 years old. Now we're 39 years old. So healthcare has to be a beneficiary of that. And that's why we've been interested in it for a while. But years ago, when we looked at Stericycle, it would have been kind of a bet the company acquisition. Because we've grown so much, it was really more of a tuck-in for us. We love the kind of the secular trend that we'll be able to take advantage of.
You're looking for additional tuck-in acquisitions that you could make too. You think somewhere between 0.5% and 1% of revenue growth will come from that. What kind of areas do you have your eye on for that?
That's just going to be probably our traditional solid waste business. It still is a pretty fragmented business. About half the business are kind of small companies that oftentimes look to sell.
That was Wayne's whole idea.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And you still got it.
And we still have it.
You're halfway.
No, he's exactly right, Joe. Joe, the business was a big roll-up when it was under Huizenga.
Yeah,
Republic does the same thing.
Yep, rolled those up. How are people? Is it recession trash? Is it boom trash? Is it
order filled?
Order filled. How much trash are people? That's a good
order
indicator.
Submitted.
It's kind of funny. Since 2000, if I were to ask you what has trash done since 2000, you probably would say, well, it's gone down because we're recycling more, and we are recycling more. But trash has continued to climb, and we just produce more trash for whatever reason. So we help take it off the street and put it someplace safe.
So a strong economy based on what you see, or just
the economy sure helps. But the economy's been fine. It hasn't been terrible. It hasn't been fantastic.
You can get natural gas from a landfill. Can you do that?
So we get it produces gas. And that gas we put through a renewable natural gas plant that turns it into pipeline quality gas, and then we put it in our trucks.
I mean, that's too good to be true, isn't it?
Well, it happens. That's what we're doing. I would tell you the free cash flow from that business, here's kind of a quick number for you. In 2012, our total company free cash flow is $829 million. Just from those businesses, it's going to be 3/4 of that by 2027.
We had a guest with us who was a former deputy mayor in New York City who suggested that New York City still has office vacancy issues that are 4 to 5% below what it was pre-COVID pandemic. What do you see just in cities across the country in terms of back to work? Because you can measure that too.
During COVID, the business really shrunk considerably because everybody left the downtown area, New York included. But most cities have come back pretty strongly. Houston, where we are, has come back. But we're in every city across the U.S. and Canada, and most cities have bounced back. I hear most companies are going back to work 4 or 5 days a week. And that was a big impact when companies were only working 2 days a week in the office and 3 days a week at home. It was impacting the amount of recyclables, the amount of trash that they were generating. Now, most companies are back 4 or 5 days a week.
Let's talk a little bit about the job market. You mentioned that you see a lot of turnover, especially on the back of trucks, trying to get people who will stay in those jobs. As a result, you've gone a lot to automation. But what do you know about the jobs market, and what can you tell us about the automation?
One thing we know about the jobs market as we think about demographics is that labor market, particularly for trade-type jobs, which is mechanics and drivers, is really shrinking. And so how do we take advantage of that? Because we employ a lot of trade-type positions. And so we're using technology in a couple of ways. One is, as opposed to the old-style rear loader that you used to see running around your neighborhood, we have those side loaders with the arm on the side. And that removes a very hard-to-fill position off the back of the truck. You can imagine that's a hard position to fill. And then I've challenged our team to produce an autonomous truck with our OEMs over the next 2 years that would ultimately, over time, have nobody up front running around a neighborhood without a driver. And you see that in Phoenix, you see it in Austin. The Waymo
That's already
vehicles.
taking place right now?
No, but the
Waymo.
technology is certainly there. The Waymo
Sure.
technology is there. I've ridden in these driverless vehicles, and so the technology is there, and now we've just
This
got
seems like a heavier lift, so to
Order
speak, though,
filled.
than
Well, I think
driving around.
from
You
a
gotta drive
regulation
around, you
standpoint,
gotta-
maybe,
yeah.
and from a public perception standpoint, you know, do you want one
Order
of those trucks
submitted.
prowling around your neighborhood? And so we would have a driver up front initially. It's not going to be a labor savings issue so much as it is an efficiency
Initially.
and safety
Initially,
issue.
but over time,
Over
then
time.
you just have to have one person in the back.
I think that's right.
And does it ever become completely robotic?
I think you can take that automated side loader and ultimately, over time, and I don't know what that is, that 10 years from now, is it 5 years, but turn that into a truly autonomous vehicle where it recognizes the trash can, there isn't anybody up front, it recognizes that trash can, picks it up, and moves to the next one. And so I do think that can be similar to a Waymo vehicle that picks you up at a restaurant and runs you to another place.
Can you program the side armor so it throws the trash can on the side in the middle of my driveway? I mean, because that's not the way.
We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
We'll see what we
They
can
put it right
They can
back
make that
down.
special for you.
They do that. They do.
Just especially for Jim.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Hey, Jim, thanks a lot for coming in. It's really good to see you, and we hope you come
Great
back
to see you as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up, hedge fund giant Philippe Lafont is going to be joining us. He's the founder of Cotu, and he's going to speak to us about so many things. He's got a huge presence in New York, one of the great venture capitalists of our time right now. We'll get his reaction, by the way, also to last night's primary results. And yes, we will talk tech and all of his big tech investments. He's got a fascinating and provocative new thesis on the world of AI and what it means for the Mag 7. You don't want to miss it. Before we head to a break, check out some mega cap tech stocks. We'll have him comment on those. As I mentioned, he's got a view that, well, we've got to listen. So come on back.
What we're building is really, really important for the future of humanity.
Companies like Voyager don't just adapt to change, they create it.
Innovation, space, defense, national security is great, but our mission is you.
With gold and copper prices breaking all-time highs, U.S. Gold Corp offers investors tremendous leverage to both gold and copper at its project in mining-friendly Wyoming. U.S. Gold Corp has a reserve of 1.5 million ounces of gold equivalents, fully permitted to mine, producing a gold and copper concentrate with only 12.5 million shares outstanding and a portfolio of world-class American strategic metals assets. U.S. Gold Corp. Join the golden age.
Luxury meets performance. Peter Millar.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
It's about political points.
Deserve better fiscal
It's terrible. Politics seeps into everything.
What do you mean? Talk about climate change or the economy or, of course, elections.
You can't find out what we should really expect to happen.
But of course you can.
Go to IBKR's Forecast Trader.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Golf, it's always bigger in Texas.
A remarkable round of golf. You are kidding me. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, this is amazing.
It's awesome.
It's a party out here.
Live is lit.
Crushers start the party here in Dallas.
Where do you go to a golf tournament and get an amazing concert? Nowhere but Live Golf.
Get your tickets to Live Golf Dallas.
Finding the things you and your family need to be well is kind of a big deal. Finding ways to save on those things is an extra big deal. Check out extra big deals at CVS. Extra Care members get extra big savings on more of what matters most every 2 weeks. It doesn't get extra bigger than that. Shop tons of extra big deals at CVS today. And come back for more every 2 weeks.
Coming up, Fed Chair Jay Powell is in no rush to lower interest rates. He testified on Capitol Hill yesterday and will be back for round 2 today. House Financial Services Committee Chairman French Hill will be with us next with his thoughts on Powell's comments. Do not go anywhere. Squawk Box, come right back.
An important day is coming for every American with money in the markets, and it'll be here sooner than you think. I predict this stock bull market will end with an epic crash. I believe another epic stock crash is coming for the markets, based on 100 years of data. My name is Mark Chaikin. I spent 50 years on Wall Street, where I helped create an entire stock rating system. I've met everyone from George Soros to Warren Buffett. I got my broker's license in 1966 and have invested through 9 recessions plus countless panics and bull markets. And I found there's one incredible indicator to help identify big market turns. I used this indicator in 2018 when I told Jim Cramer stocks would fall. I used it in 2020 to help folks get back into stocks. I used this indicator again in 2021 to beg folks not to sell when so many were panicking, and again in March of 2022 to predict a crash. I used the same indicator to predict a new bull market in January of 2023, and again in 2024 when I told Business Insider the bull market would continue. And now I'm using the exact same indicator yet again to detail why there's a 90% chance the market will end the year up in 2025, backed by historical data, before crashing in 2026. Look, if you have money in the markets, you must know 2 critical things right now. First, what to own in 2025 as the market continues higher, and second, exactly when the markets are likely to crash in 2026. I put together a free presentation that explains everything, including the exact month stocks are most likely to crash next year. You can watch my new presentation free of charge. To learn more, visit the website below.
At Public Rec, we develop premium performance fabrics that are built to last and hard to live without. Our Daymaker pads, with their various sizing options, are designed to fit your life's moments. More comfortable than jeans, more stylish than sweats.
Ever worry that you're drinking too much? Take back control with Or Health. Or Health provides access to medication proven to help. A daily pill to drink less, or to quit drinking altogether. Text CNBC to 710-710 to learn more.
Introducing CNBC Plus, the new streaming platform from the #1 source in business news. Watch live or on demand. Access any market, anytime, anywhere. Start streaming. Go to cnbc.com/plus now.
Fed Chair Jay Powell testified before the House Financial Services Committee yesterday, telling lawmakers that he's in no rush to lower rates. Powell will be back this morning for round 2 in front of the Senate Banking Committee. But joining us right now is the chairman of the Financial Services Committee, French Hill. French, thank you very much for being with us. Mr. Chairman, you saw everything that Chairman Powell had to say yesterday. And I guess I'd ask first, was there anything in his remarks that surprised you?
Well, Becky, good morning. It's nothing like the producers to go from a waste management interview to Congress, so congratulations on that.
We like to keep the flow here.
Jay Powell didn't, oh man, that was bad. Jay Powell did not say anything that surprised me, but I think he reiterated a few facts that are important. One, he talked about the importance of regulatory balance. We welcomed Mickey Bowman to the committee and that we want to get supervision and tailored regulations back on track. I think he gave positive indications that was the plan for the Fed. And then he talked about that the economy was solid, that it was growing, and that the labor market conditions were good, and that it appeared that inflation was receding and that inflation expectations were anchored, but that the committee was not quite sure. I thought that sounded like to me that it's setting up for actually, a rate cut as opposed to being pessimistic about it. And of course, we've had a couple of voting governors say that they would be supportive of a rate cut.
Chairman, the The president has been very outspoken about his desire to see rate cuts coming. I think just in the last few days, saying he'd like to see 200 to 300 basis points brought down in those rates. You have always been somebody who's been a little more hesitant. In February, you were telling the Fed that they need to really keep their eye on the inflation bill, and you basically think there's only one mandate that should exist, and that's to watch inflation, not necessarily worry about everything else, that everything else will flow from that. Do you think the economy is in a position where we should see rate cuts right now?
Well, again, I think the chairman reported that he wanted to be data-driven. I think that's the case. What I heard him say, though, was with strong economic growth, with labor market conditions still in good shape, and inflation coming down and inflation expectations close to, I think, being anchored closer to that 2%. The uncertainty that he expressed was what he thought might happen or might not happen in tariffs. And so if there was any reluctance towards a cut now, it was based on not sure what prices might do in the next 2 quarters. But I took that to mean that if they don't see inflation expectations get out of hand, I think you'll see a rate cut here in the next couple of meetings.
And that makes sense to you?
It does. Look, I do think price stability should be the sole mandate of the Fed. And the reason I say that is that the executive branch and the legislative branch have so much more impact on things that lead to full employment: the regulatory system, the tax system, the employment system, the training and education system, and that I really believe each central bank should be principally focused on price stability. And I love the fact that the former Cleveland Bank president said that she thought that full employment, whatever the maximum employment should be, that's consistent with price stability. In other words, she links the two, and she makes price stability the superior of the two mandate elements.
I was just going to mention it's Seersucker Day.
Yeah, I see that.
I think that's the most important thing,
It is Seersucker Day on the House
It is
side.
Seersucker Day in Congress, and you are sporting a beautiful seersucker suit there.
Wait, you didn't know that, French?
It is Seersucker Day on Wednesdays in the House side. If you're in the Senate, it's on Thursdays,
So
and it's hot as hell down here today.
Not a quinky dink. I thought you started saying
here too.
You started saying, you know, the Fed does one thing, and then you went through the list of things that you and your friends do in the House and the Senate, and I thought you were going to say all the things that causes the dollar instability. We provide all of the dollar instability and the inflation, so we give the Fed, that should be their primary mandate, based on all of our efforts to make it a problem for the Fed.
To screw it up.
But you didn't say that.
That's right.
But that was implied.
I came close, but I didn't say that. Well, I do actually really believe that the executive branch and the legislative branch have much more impact on this full employment aspect of the mandate that Hubert Humphrey was so passionate about in the 1970s. But really, the central bank's primary mission is to focus on price stability, and they should speak out about price stability. I made that a clear point yesterday, too, to Jerome Powell when I reminded him that in February of 2021, after trillions of spending in the pandemic, he didn't criticize more trillions in spending in the American Rescue Plan.
No.
And yet this spring, where we haven't even had a tariff policy impact, he chooses to criticize it.
Right. The apolitical Fed. I know. We always pointed that out a lot. Yeah, not an unkind word during all that other stuff while they were late, and then now they're on the case for the tariff inflation that may or may not be a problem.
Yeah, I'm looking for consistency on that. And you go back and look at Volcker and Greenspan. They did speak out about fiscal policy and how it impacts the outlook for the economy and their concerns about it. It's on the record many times. I would say the same was true for Bernanke. And so I think it's perfectly fine for a Fed chair to talk about that, but I think it should be consistent. So I just urge consistency. If you're going to not do it in spring of 2021, then why are you choosing to do it in spring of 2025?
Chairman, yesterday, Chairman Powell was asked about some comments that Jamie Dimon made recently, where he said that you're going to see a crack in the bond market based on what we see with the worsening fiscal picture for the United States. Powell himself said he didn't want to say things like that. He doesn't think that's happening, and the Treasury markets are functioning well. Do you have concerns about that?
I think we have an outstanding new task force this year led by Frank Lucas of Oklahoma that's looking exactly at that. They're evaluating monetary policy since the financial crisis, but they're also looking at Treasury market resilience in the face of very large budget deficits and looking at some of the things that we've experienced in the Treasury market, either here recently in April during the tariff situation or in previous episodes. And I would say the Treasury market is resilient. The Fed today will be having a meeting looking at the supplemental leverage ratio, and could that provide some relief to intraday liquidity? They waived that during the COVID-19 crisis, and so the Fed board will discuss today waiving the supplemental leverage ratio. That could provide more liquidity to the Treasury market. And what Frank Lucas and his team will do is find other regulatory or policy changes that we ought to make to ensure Treasury market resilience. Former SEC Chair Gary Gensler's agreement to clear Treasury trades, I think, also provides some additional resilience to the market.
The statutory liquidity ratio, would that be waived only for Treasuries, or would it be a broader waiving or reduction of that ratio?
It's a broader waiving, but it does have impact on the large banks who are acting as intraday dealers.
And finally, Congressman, we are still waiting to hear what happens in the negotiations between the Senate and the House. Do you have any updates on where things stand? I guess SALT is a really big sticking point that has to be worked out. We heard yesterday from the Treasury Secretary he thought that would be worked out in 24 to 48 hours, the differences in the cap between the House and the Senate. But have you gotten any updates?
I don't have an overnight update, but I have my best thoughts going for senators that they know they need to support something that we can also get 218 votes for here in the House. So I wish them well, and I hope it's going to be a very happy 4th of July weekend with this behind us.
Congressman French Hill, we appreciate your time today, sir.
You bet. Great to be with you. Thanks.
You too.
You got a seersucker?
I do own a seersucker suit. I just haven't worn it a while.
Seersucker suit.
This is the moment, though, to be breaking it out. I should be amortizing the suit right about now, given the weather.
It's so hot.
You should.
It is hot, and it is just after 8 a.m. on the East Coast. You're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC. I'm Becky Quick, along with Joe Kernan and Andrew Ross Sorkin. And among today's top stories, President Trump attending the NATO summit in the Netherlands. He says last weekend's U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites completely destroyed those facilities. Some media reports citing early U.S. assessments of the strikes suggest that they did not take out Iran's nuclear program completely, but likely set them back by 3 to 6 months. In Washington, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that he believes the Senate is on track for a vote this Friday on President Trump's tax and spending bill. Yesterday, Bessent also predicted House and Senate Republicans would reach a deal on the SALT deduction cap in the next 24 to 48 hours. And in New York City, Zohran Mamdani has been declared the winner in New York City's Democratic mayoral primary. Votes are still being counted. The Democratic Socialist held a 44% to 36% lead over his nearest rival, Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo conceded the race, even though no candidate is set to secure a majority in the first round of the ranked choice election.
Meantime, take a look at futures this morning. Let's show you where things stand. You got some green on the screen right now. Dow up about 36 points, NASDAQ up about 80 points, the S&P 500 up about 13 points. Want to get more on the markets? Get down to the New York Stock Exchange, where our good friend Mike Santoli is standing by. Good morning, sir. What do you think?
Morning, Andrew. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of within sight of the old all-time highs of the S&P 500. Now, that was in late February, so it's obviously been several months. Basically going to add to that a little bit. Yesterday was one of those days I like to refer to as the subtraction of all fears, right? You had oil prices come in very hard. Treasury yields followed them lower. The market was able to maybe infer a little bit of flexibility from Fed Chair Powell's testimony about the possibility of rate cuts. Of course, the economy is generally hanging in there, and we have a little bit of a geopolitical relief, obviously. So all of that working together, plus the depth of the scare that we got in early April really has created the sort of slingshot effect for this. I really do believe that. You have to get people frightened, scare people out. You have people underpositioned for a rally. The rally comes, and then it feeds on itself. By the way, it is still largely tech. It's sort of narrowed out again. Take a look at the NASDAQ 100 relative to the equal-weighted S&P 500, and you see it's kind of opened up a lead again. By the way, this back here in mid-July of last year was the peak relative performance of Mag 7 versus the rest of the market. And you see it kind of waxed and waned since then. So you have the equal-weighted index is still about 4% below its record high, and now you have the NASDAQ 100 basically at a high. The median S&P 500 stock is like 13% below its high. So that's both a good and bad thing. It shows you there's room for catch-up by the average stock, but it also means that the market is basically now again relying on those consensus winners in the NASDAQ 100. Do want to take a look at financials and capital markets related stocks, as well as, gauges of risk appetite. This is Goldman Sachs relative to this ETF that's full of recent IPOs, which is really a fast moving index. And here you have them moving perfectly in sync over the last year. Usually that means the market is feeling more comfortable about financial conditions. We'll see if it's too much, because obviously it obviously came to a little bit of a halt back then at the end of last year, guys.
Okay. Mike Santoli, we're going to keep our eyes on all of it. Thank you.
Coming up next, Senator Cynthia Lummis on the new crypto framework rules that she's introduced, along with Banking Chair Tim Scott. In just 2 weeks to go until the big reveal of CNBC's top states for business. Today, Scott Cohn is taking a look at Louisiana and the battle for data centers. Stay tuned. You're watching Squawk Box on CNBC.
Decking and railing that's ready for anything you throw at it, even John's 40th. Trex, performance engineered for your life outdoors.
Sweat isn't sweet. It's earned. Day in and day out, through hard work, grit, and craftsmanship. A life built by your own hands. You feel the difference when you get it right. Stay salty.
What if you could invest in a future where skin cancer treatment is non-invasive and relatively painless? Medicus Pharma's groundbreaking solution delivers chemotherapy directly to the tumor site, offering a mostly painless alternative to invasive surgeries. With the skin cancer treatment market expected to exceed $20 billion by 2030, Medicus is poised to meet the demand for cost-effective, non-surgical options. Now advancing Phase 2 studies. Medicus Pharma, leading the charge in skin cancer innovation.
Dick's Epic 4th of July sale is on. Take 20% off Bog Bags and Igloo Coolers, 25% off Stanley Drinkware, $200 off Callaway irons and TaylorMade drivers. Buy any DSG item and get the second half price. Shop in-store or at dicks.com.
Every day, I'm checking the markets throughout the trading session, working the phones, talking to sources to share insights, information, and all of the details that you need to make money.
Closing bell overtime for Easter and streaming on CNBC.
When your dog's superhero moment goes sideways. Pumpkin Now, the urgent pay service from Pumpkin Pet Insurance, can pay you for eligible care before you pay the vet. Ask your vet about Pumpkin or visit pumpkin.care and see Superman, only in theaters July 11th.
You see so many different ads for, trade schools and all these different places you can go, but I think UTI was definitely the biggest one that wanted me to succeed and had all the resources to help me succeed. Here you get the opportunity to learn about a trade and what you want to do in life, and also about, pushing yourself and being a better person and growing up and being a part of society.
I have Usher syndrome, a rare condition that's causing me to lose all of my vision and hearing at the same time. I'm a fighter, trying to hold on to what I still have, but I can't do it alone.
Just a quick check on crypto this morning. Bitcoin all the way back to over 107,000. Meanwhile, the Senate subcommittee on digital assets is working on new legislation that would provide a legal framework for crypto, separate from the House's version of a similar bill. And joining us now, Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis. She chairs the Bank Subcommittee on Digital Assets. And welcome, Senator. It's good to see you, as always. Tell us about legislation that once and for all, what it would be, crypto would be under the auspices of the SEC, not the CFTC, among other things. What else is in this bill?
Well, actually, the digital assets themselves would be classified as commodities, so they would fall under the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. But a lot of them are bundled and sold by securities. And in that event, we need the superior disclosure and consumer protection provisions that are provided by the SEC. So it's very much a joint effort. Now, the reason that the Banking Committee is concentrating only on the SEC side of the equation is that commodities fall under the Senate Agriculture Committee. So we're going to have to join those efforts and dovetail them at some point. But for now, we're just putting out a framework of principles that we can follow and then move into the details of the legislation.
Oh, okay, so this is just rules, a framework of rules at this point. I mean, it's still, we're late, aren't we? I mean, compared to some countries in the rest of the world, and it's sorely needed.
Oh, absolutely. If we heard one thing yesterday at our first hearing on market structure, we heard loud and clear that the United States needs to pass market structure now. In fact, one of our witnesses said we need to do it yesterday because we are without that framework. These companies have been regulated by SEC enforcement actions, which means you move into a judicial proceeding. It's costing them literally hundreds of millions of dollars in lawyers' fees and not getting them the kind of certainty that they need going forward. So we've got to get this legislation through the system so they know the rules of the road. And it's also important for our excuse me, position in the international markets. Europe has regulations, Singapore has regulations, but they're not exactly tailored to what would be a more robust U.S. economy style of regulation. So we need to take leadership here. We haven't done it yet. And that's so rare for the United States to default and sit back and not lead. And this industry wants to grow and in the United States, and they want clear rules of the road. So they're asking for regulation. We need to provide it to them.
What do you think, French Hill, we just had the chairman on within the last half hour. What do you think is the fate of the Genius Act? What needs to be done to get it to pass in the House at this point?
Well, they also have put out legislation, and the House has done a great job of producing some market structure legislation to come out of the Banking Committee or the Financial Services Committee, as well as stablecoin legislation. And then the House Ag Committee has put out commodities legislation. So they're really ahead of us in terms of their committee work. We're ahead of them in the fact that we have passed through the Senate the Genius Act, which is focused on stablecoins. And so I hope now that they're comparing the stablecoin legislation that their Financial Services Committee passed to the Genius Act, and we can work together to figure out a path forward for both market structure and the Genius Act. Now, I'm not saying combine them, but they both need to pass this year. I know that there is enthusiasm, at the White House for having the Congress send them a win in the area of stablecoins. And I'm very confident that the Genius Act that we worked so hard to get past the Senate is a high-quality product that is worthy of the president's signature.
Senator, I know that, just switching gears, I know that, that you were positive or at least supportive of the president's of the action that we took on Saturday. You've said that for years we've heard Iran chanting "Death to America," world's largest sponsor of terrorism. Do you have any insight into, or at least comments about what happened yesterday? There is an agency, obviously, that did some assessment and then immediately leaked to CNN and others. What do you, the whole saga, how would you characterize it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really think it's too early to know the extent of the damage. We don't yet know whether caravans of trucks that were leaving those areas before the bombing occurred were carrying materials that can be reassembled for bombs elsewhere. We assessed the perfect targeting by the U.S. military of their nuclear targets. An incredible military accomplishment to have fueled in the air, have the Tomahawks fired from submarines, and the timing of all that. That was just epically military science executed to perfection. But what we don't know yet, and it's just premature to say, is whether they could rebuild or whether it would take years or months. Obviously, the Israelis took out a large number of their military leaders and top nuclear scientists. So I think Iran is probably even still assessing its own ability, its own understandings of what happened and how far it set them back.
Senator, if in fact we did not set them back as far as, frankly, we would need to, if it really is only several months, do you think there is a role for the U.S. to play in a military way going forward related to Iran? Meaning, would you be an advocate for additional bombings?
Well, I just think it's too soon to tell. Certainly, I'm very opposed to troops on the ground. I think the president was correct to say that if retaliation by Iran to troops that are in the region, I think we've got about 42,000 troops in the region, would be a grave mistake. It most certainly would be, and that would merit additional bombings. But I don't think that we're to the point where we can actually say whether additional bombings would be warranted later. The Iranians and the Ayatollah got a taste of what we're capable of. I would think that he would want to think more than twice before he aggressed in a way that would allow us to do that again.
Right. Senator Lummis, thank you, and we will be paying attention. It's a long process in terms of crypto, but at least we seem to be on the case at this point. But thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Coming up next, the battle for data supremacy, why Richland Parish, Louisiana has become a hotspot for Meta. We're going to discuss that. And then legendary investor and Tiger Cub Philippe Lafonte's going to join us for a big, wide-ranging interview on the markets, the Fed, and all of his holdings in tech, and some very provocative views about AI and the Mag 7. You don't want to miss it. Squawk Box coming right back.
Starting this business, I barely had time to hire. ZipRecruiter has this feature called Zip Intro. It did all of the work of finding and scheduling the candidates for me. The goal was to make 2 hires, but I ended up making 4 in a week.
Try it free only at ZipRecruiter.com/CNBC.
At
Avocado Green mattress, we know that we all deserve a little rest. That's why we're promoting better sleep this season with our certified organic mattresses and bedding, all made with natural, luxurious materials for a healthier planet and a healthier you. Start your sleep trial today at avocadogreenmattress.com.
Here on the internet, you can pretend to be anything.
Like a medical professional. Or a skilled electrician.
Don't trust the unfiltered internet. Angie has 30 years of experience finding the best pros.
Angie, jobs done well. Silver is at a 10-year high. Kootenai Silver boasts one of the largest resources owned by a junior company. With the new high-grade discovery in Mexico, the potential for growth and leverage to silver is significant. Kootenai Silver.
Is a Bitcoin ETF the same as owning Bitcoin directly? While Bitcoin ETFs might offer a familiar face, they lack the true ownership and flexibility of directly investing in Bitcoin. With iTrust Capital, you can buy and sell real Bitcoin 24/7 with the tax advantages of an IRA. Real Bitcoin means no middleman, no restricted stock market hours. Choose the path of direct Bitcoin investment with iTrust Capital, because access equals opportunity. Invest in Bitcoin at itrustcapital.com today.
At Public, the high-yield cash account's a no-brainer. I know my money's working hard for me, and I know I can access it anytime I need it. It's very simple. Better rates mean faster growth, and that's exactly what I need.
It is my honor to welcome the hardest-working software on television to the public market.
And there have been 3 chapters in the company's life. This one is the one I'm most excited about.
Never miss a moment.
Every outside forecaster and the Fed is saying is that we expect inflation to arrive in coming months.
Right now, it's not that costly to hold, right? The economy is doing well. The unemployment rate is low.
If the unemployment rate goes up, they're probably going to be more likely to cut rates, even if the inflation rate's at 3.5%.
Jurassic World.
Well, we are just about 2 weeks away from revealing our 2025 top states for business. This is CNBC's exclusive annual study. Today, we're focusing on the battle for data supremacy. CNBC's Scott Cohn is visiting the biggest trophy yet in that battle in Richland Parish, Louisiana. That's about 250 miles north of New Orleans.
The site is massive, best viewed from the air. 2,250 acres, enough to cover a big part of Manhattan. Rachel Peterson is the VP in charge of data centers for Meta, which chose Louisiana for its main artificial intelligence hub.
We looked at finding very, very large contiguous plots of land that had access to the infrastructure that we need, the energy that we needed, and could move very, very quickly for us.
Louisiana did just that. Susan Bourgeois is Secretary of Economic Development.
As barriers arose in the project, we eliminated.
But this project will create just 500 permanent jobs. Even at the height of construction, it's just 5,000. Yet, Louisiana is giving Meta a rebate on potentially billions of dollars in sales taxes. A CNBC investigation just last week found those sales tax breaks increasingly popular. Like most states, Louisiana can't say how much it will cost.
This wasn't about what the state would win or lose from just that one isolated sales tax. This was about, we want to compete with Texas. We want to compete with Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina.
And then there's the energy. Local utility Entergy Louisiana wants to build 3 power plants just for this project. Worth it, says the CEO.
With this announcement, it says we're open for business. And we believe this is a foundation upon which we can build upon and attract more technology to the state of Louisiana.
also providing a huge economic boost to one of the poorest areas of this state, if not the country. Just 6 months ago, this was a soybean field, and now it's about to be the largest data center in the Western Hemisphere. But not everybody is on board. Coming up today on CNBC, we'll do more of the cost-benefit analysis. Later today, we'll speak with this state's governor, Jeff Landry. A reminder, you can read about this, see more pictures, read about our study, and follow our journey at topstates.cnbc.com. Guys, the top state revealed July 10th.
Hey, Scott, in the packet.
While they were courting Meta, what she told me was that Meta said that that sales tax break was non-negotiable. That was something that they needed to have wherever this went. So they literally changed the law and had to do a little bit of legislative gymnastics to get that done. They had the site. This was a site that the state purchased 20 years ago because they thought they were going to put an auto plant here, which would have been a whole lot more jobs. They finally were able to sell it to Meta, and the hope is that it's a win-win.
My guess is right now you're in Louisiana.
You're good.
Yeah. Did I get it?
Nothing gets by you.
I nailed it.
What was that?
I nailed it. I've never been able to get it, so I got it. This is not the top state forbidden. This is not that segment. Okay, never mind.
You don't know that. You don't know that. Remember, we're diabolical.
Give me something.
I might be back here in a couple
That's
weeks.
what I'm asking for, is one of your diabolical things. You got it? Nothing today? Not yet?
No. I'm still working on them.
All right. It's coming, though. It's coming. It comes fast and furious.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Thanks, Scott. Right up next. So we said
Louisiana.
Yeah.
It said it on the screen.
No. Tech investor Philippe Lafont going to join us to talk markets, AI, and his firm's Fantastic 40. The futures that I shouldn't do that, though. You're right. Because people always, because they
never know.
Yeah. The futures this morning are higher. Look at the NASDAQ. A new high yesterday. We'll be right back.
CoreWeave has been on a unique and truly extraordinary journey as we build the infrastructure that allows artificial intelligence to achieve its potential. We have built what is one of the most amazing companies and will be one of the most foundational companies on how artificial intelligence is delivered to the world.
Every morning, even before the markets open, I'm planning my moves that I make throughout the day. When you're actively trading, the fees really start to add up, and that eats directly into your potential returns. I found that Public is really the only platform that offers rebates on your option trades, which help offset those costs. For me, when it comes to investing, timing is everything, and Public allows me to get a step ahead.
At Avocado, luxury isn't just comfort. It's consciousness. It's craftsmanship. It's choosing better. Inspired by the beauty of our planet, we design for the dreamers. Every stitch, thoughtfully placed to elevate your sleep. Crafted for the way you rest. Made with the finest natural and organic materials. Sustainably sourced. Meticulously crafted. Because true luxury isn't just how it feels, it's how it's made. Discover our full line of luxury mattresses at avocadomattress.com.
Don't miss a members-only event.
The club is really about empowerment, empowering you to manage your own money.
Join the CNBC Investing Club to access Jim's monthly meeting. Go to cnbc.com/monthly meeting.
Golf, it's always bigger in Texas.
A remarkable round of golf. You are kidding me. Absolutely stunning.
Man, this is amazing.
It's awesome.
It's a party out here.
Live is lit. Crushers start the party here in Dallas.
Where do you go to a golf tournament and get an amazing concert? Nowhere but Live Golf.
Get your tickets to Live Golf Dallas.
What's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor?
Here's a taste of H-E-B Creamy Creations Mango Chamoy Sherbet. One of over 40 unique ice cream flavors created to satisfy Texans' cravings.
Tell me what's your flavor?
Taco Bell's $5, $7, and $9 Lux Cravings boxes. Take a dip with the $5 box. Indulge in the $7 box. Or explore the $9 box for a truly unmissable experience. Get Lux for less only at Taco Bell.
Welcome to Squawk Box.
Oh my God.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. We've got a huge a lot of things to cover, a lot of ground to cover with our next guest. We're very excited about it. The markets, the Fed, why he's excited about private markets, AI, some very provocative views about Alphabet, which, by the way, didn't make his fantastic 40 list, and so much more. An exclusive with famed tech investor Philippe Lafont. He's the founder and portfolio manager of Cotu. It's a tech hedge fund, a private markets investor, $55 billion under management. Some people think of you as a venture capitalist to some degree these days. What do you think of yourself as, actually? What are you anymore?
The winner of the AT&T Pro-Am is what.
That's what we just heard.
Is what he thinks of himself.
That's true, but I don't think that's what my investors would care about.
Yeah, they might not like that. You're too good. Your name is on the wall?
It is.
As
It's
the first
supposed to be on the wall right there next to Rory McIlroy. So
for me to be on there, I'd have to change my name to Philippe Lafont.
There you go.
For me, yeah. Congratulations.
Well, what are you these days? Because you're doing a lot of things.
When the market goes up, then I'm definitely a public investor. But then when the market doesn't do well, I switch to, venture and growth. But I think that in general, now you have to be a life cycle investor. Sometimes you have a new idea. It's a small little company. Then you miss it as a small company. You try to invest it again. You miss it as a big company. You invest within on the public side. I think more shots on goal at the end is what you hope for.
I said at the beginning of this, and I've teased it a couple times, because you put together a fascinating deck from your East Meets West event, which is an unbelievable thing that you put together, about what happens to the Mag 7. This is sort of a public markets issue, but really a private markets issue, because you think that this whole thing may ultimately turn over.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the Mag 7 has been so popular for a while, and I felt like this year maybe is a change. And if you remember a few years ago, the Mag 7 was called the FANG Index, and then the FANG++. These indices change. And we were thinking, like this year, there's some Mag 7s that have worked out well, some that haven't. Is it the change of the guard?
And you think this is it?
I think this is it. I think that with AI, it's sort of this big new wave. We're sort of ushering out of the era of cloud and SaaS into the era of AI, and there's going to be some changes.
So who are the half a dozen winners that replace them then?
So we looked at the, let's say, top 25 companies and what happens to them every 5 years. And some of them just drop out. They run fast, but they don't run as fast as the others. Then you've got some new IPOs that come in. Is OpenAI going to be part of the Mag 7 of the future? Is SpaceX going to be part of the Mag 7? And so we try to recombine the index and imagine we're here today, NASDAQ 100. What's the NASDAQ 100 5 years out?
And who's on it then?
Okay. I thought you were going to ask me who's not on it.
Well, we can do who's not on it. By the way, Alphabet's not on it. Tell us why.
You know what I did? I just thought some of the big companies are going to be amazingly positioned. Microsoft is going to stay on it, and maybe today it's a $3 billion company, but let's say it doubles in 5 years. It could be $5 or $6 billion.
Oh, trillion.
Trillion, yeah, sorry, of course, trillion. Then we added Bitcoin. We thought of Bitcoin as a company. Today, I think Bitcoin is 2 trillion. And we're like, well, could it get to also 4 or 5 trillion? Obviously, Bitcoin's not a company. It'd be like saying if gold's a company, but I thought it was interesting as a new asset.
Yeah, right. Market cap. Yeah.
Market cap, 2 trillion is so big.
When did you get involved in Bitcoin?
I've not gotten involved with Bitcoin, and I wake up every day at 3 in the morning, and I'm like, why am I such an idiot? What have I been waiting for, not being involved in it? And it just goes up and up. In the past, I think this is interesting, the retail investors, they were much faster at getting involved with Bitcoin than the institutional ones. And I always thought Bitcoin's amazing, but it's double or triple the volatility of the NASDAQ. NASDAQ's already pretty volatile. Why do I need to deal with this added volatility? Recently, Bitcoin, when it went down during the tariff, only went down as much as NASDAQ. So it seems the volatility as an asset class is coming down, which I thought was pretty interesting.
But given your sort of thesis, do you say to yourself, even at this point in the ball game, if you think it's going to double or triple and going to be part of the NASDAQ 100, if you were to think of it as a company?
Yes, I have to think about it.
That you should own it now?
Yes, I have to think about it now. Do I own it now? Do I own it tomorrow? In a few days? But every day, I do think, why do I not own it? And I think to be a good investor, it's not just like owning the obvious stock, but sometimes you have to change your mind and you have to just say, well, I made a mistake and I'm changing my mind, and maybe Bitcoin will do that.
How do you come up to that valuation? Is it as a percentage of gold's market cap or something?
So I thought like the market cap of the world, the net worth of the world is, I think, 450 to 500. Equities are, let's say, 120. Gold above and under the ground is 20. And then Bitcoin is 2 trillion. And I was like, okay, well, 2 trillion, let's say it represents 0.5% of the net worth of the world. Could it go to 1 or 2? Some people say, oh, Bitcoin's going to be 100 trillion. I'm like, okay, that's not, maybe a bit of an aggressive estimate, but could it double over a period of time? And then we talked about the de-dollarization of the world, the end of U.S. exceptionalism. So those would be some of the reasons.
Hey, Philippe, you mentioned that because of SaaS and cloud kind of not being as powerful, that's why some of these companies are going to move out. We've had other people who have come in and said, the Mag 7's not going to be as strong in terms of an investment vehicle because they now have to spend a lot of money on things like AI development that they never had to spend before. Do you think about that, or you think Microsoft's still going to be there because as long as you're a leader in AI, it doesn't matter if you have to spend a ton of CapEx to get that?
Yes, that's a great question. And the idea would be like, look, the free cash flow is going to disappear. They're going to have to reinvest so much. And in fact, what's funny is at the beginning of the cloud, about 10, 15 years ago, everybody said the same, Microsoft and Amazon, why are you guys spending so much in this new business? And at one point, I remember the new business was losing 10% of the overall profits. And today, it's 50% of the profits. And so I think you have to invest. But public investors in general, we just want things to be like they were. Please don't invest, just keep growing, give me my little returns. But I think the entrepreneurs, they're like, no, this is a huge business, and we got to go for it.
Where do you stand on the hardware side of all of this? Because there's a sort of great debate. Either we are in a massive shortage of chips, and we're going to be needing this stuff for as long as the eye can see, or this is like a big overbuild a la fiber, some of the fiber stuff that was going on back in the late 90s.
Yes. So you think about it in terms of the return on investment and say, wait, we're spending $500 billion a year, multiplied by 2, because if the chip is $500 billion, the total system is $1 trillion, the data centers, the cooling, this and that. Where do we get the return on the trillion? I think maybe 2 years ago and 1 year ago, some people were saying, look, the return is not there, this is crazy, we're in a bubble. But when you speak to companies now, the amount of AI that they're implementing, the savings that they're getting, and if you think of the world economy, I think just in the US, labor is maybe 20 trillion, the savings that we could get off that. You look at Microsoft, their number of employees is going down. Amazon, Andy Jassy.
You just had Andy Jassy at your event.
He was unequivocal that basically the number of employees over the long run is going to go down. Those are the benefits of AI. And so I tend to see like the glass is maybe half full and half empty, but I'm very much on the half full camp.
You're a believer, though, that, I mean, we've always talked about, I mean, by the way, given what's going on in the city, UBI and all of these things. I mean, look, if nobody has a job, we all have a problem. The question is whether you think this is going to generate an enormous amount of productivity and that we're going to find roles for everybody in some other way.
Yes. So there's a big debate with AI, like, are we all going to be, you know, out of a job?
Displaced,
obviously, and displaced. I think in 1900, the U.S. economy was 52% agriculture, and today it's 1%. So over 100 years, we can replace, but then find new jobs for half of the economy, right? So the question is AI going to happen so fast that we can't just replace? There's this advertising that came out that's really funny. You should look at it on X, and it's a flying monkey, and he breaks his teeth, and he's looking for a dentist in LA. And that new ad cost $500 to make, and an ad usually costs, let's say, $1 million to make. Wildly popular ad. So the question too is when the price of things come down, there are going to be lots of people that can become ad creators, lots of people that are going to become directors and stuff like that. So I'm optimistic that at the end, as the price of things goes down, more people create companies, more people become entrepreneurs, and we sort of square things up.
But there's a lot of change that takes place there and breaking down of old guards along the way.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's why I always thought, like, thinking about the index of the future. When things don't
Order
change very
filled.
much, okay, then maybe you can't beat BlackRock.
Order submitted.
But now that things are
Order
changing,
filled.
the index of the future should outperform the existing index by a lot.
Before we take a quick pause, and we're going to continue this conversation, I am curious, though, talking about private markets, public markets, these now semi-liquid vehicles that you've created with Jeff Bezos as backing and another a whole bunch of others.
Michael Dell.
And Michael Dell. How do you think about the private market versus the public market and the distinction between the valuations?
Listen, the public market should have higher valuation because it's more liquid. If you give people more chance to be liquid, you should be able to pay more. But the private market also has a great role, which is when you're building a company, Becky, to your point, sometimes you have to lose money before you make money. You go do that in the private side. I think that the private and the public markets are going to be a little bit more intermeshed now, where the decision is not black and white. I'm private and I'm going public. Now you have employee tenders, you have structured capital, you have private equity, you have infrastructure capital. There's so many ways to stay private for longer. This is another reason, if you would like, that you need to be both public and private.
Okay, we're going to continue this conversation. I just want to, by the way, ask you about SPACs. That's a whole separate issue. Philippe Lafonte's going to be with us from Cotu Management. Got a lot to talk to him about. By the way, including what you think just happened in New York City yesterday. Maybe you want to weigh in. I don't know.
I'm going to think about that during the break.
Think about that one. As we head to that break, by the way, a check on FedEx shares. The company reported better than expected fiscal fourth quarter earnings and revenue. It did, though, give current quarter profit guidance a little bit below Wall Street expectations. The stock lower this morning, about 5% off right now. We're coming right back with Philippe Lafonte after this.
In a place like New York City, it's very difficult to find open areas. This is the challenge for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and the New York Power Authority when looking for ways to meet their decarbonization goals.
The largest canopy project in New York State.
It is the central piece to us becoming a leader in airport sustainability. This project at JFK symbolizes our commitment to supporting our customers in their energy transitions.
The stock market is in chaos, and you need to take action now. My name is Mark Chaikin. I got my broker's license in 1966. I've invested through 9 recessions, several massive market panics, and many bull markets. Today, I have a warning. During volatile market moves like the one we're in now, most people freeze up. They just hope everything will get magically better, and it's a recipe for disaster. You need a big picture plan, and you need to take specific actions starting today. My new briefing lays out what we expect to happen in the markets this year and in 2026 as well. This research is based on the market cycle that helped me call the bear markets of 2018 and 2022 and the roaring bull markets in both 2023 and 2024. Visit the website on your screen to see my detailed briefing in full.
Since starting the farmer's dog, Booger has lost so much weight, and he has so much more energy. It's like a puppy again. Mambo! This is a before picture of Bogart. Such a big boy. Pre-portioned packs. Makes it really easy to keep him lean and healthy. And look at him now. He's like a show dog.
Bogue, can you give Daddy a break here? He's having a hard enough time.
What if you could invest in a future where skin cancer treatment is non-invasive and relatively painless? Medicus Pharma's groundbreaking solution delivers chemotherapy directly to the tumor site, offering a mostly painless alternative to invasive surgeries. With the skin cancer treatment market expected to exceed $20 billion by 2030, Medicus is poised to meet the demand for cost-effective, non-surgical options. Now advancing Phase 2 studies. Medicus Pharma, leading the charge in skin cancer innovation.
Good morning. Welcome to CNBC Plus. Where to?
Countdown to the opening bell. Don't go anywhere.
New York for the Open.
On our way.
CNBC Plus, on-the-go access to global market data, news, and analysis as it happens. Access any market, anytime, anywhere with CNBC Plus. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Philippe Lafont is here. He's the founder and portfolio manager of Co2. We're continuing our conversation. How much do you care about what the Fed is doing at any given moment these days?
I think I actually care a lot because when you're a tech investor, there's this view of like, who cares about the Fed? I just invest in tech.
Right.
But then you have events like 2022 where if you're not careful, you can get caught in such a downdraft, and on a mark-to-market basis, it can hurt a lot. And so we care a lot about what happens. I would say that right now I hear, of course, a lot of pressure, like let's cut rates, let's cut rates. My simple interpretation is, what if the economy is doing so well that we don't need to cut rates? And what if we did cut rates, and that's actually an implication of almost like we're seeing some weakness that's not there. So I'm not too worried. It seems like the economy is doing well. We have a data science team. We process about 100 million or so credit card receipts a day. So we have a T+3 view of what people are doing, which is a little bit faster. Usually MasterCard and Visa speak on a monthly basis. We think the consumer is still resilient. The economy is doing well. I don't see exactly the reason to cut rates given the strength. So maybe that's a different view of things.
I want to ask you a different name, Meta. Where is Meta land? I mean, I know you like Meta. It's one of your biggest holdings.
Yes.
Where do they land in the AI debate, fight, whatever you think is out there?
It's a bit of a tale of two cities. On one hand, you've seen they've been very aggressive at restructuring their AI team. They've made some big hires. They've offered some big packages to try to get some of the talent. But on the other hand, they just have this core business that if you think about an advertising business, how long is it before every single person sees an advertising that the AI chooses? And it's like, oh, Becky, a red dress, you a blue shirt, me a white shirt, Joe a tie. Everything is going to be custom designed for each ad, and the price of an ad is going to come down so much. So I think their revenue per ad is going to go up a lot. And since they've implemented AI, their revenue per click has been growing significantly.
But you like them for the advertising side. You don't like Google or Alphabet.
Listen, Google has a combination of some businesses that are great, Waymo, YouTube, but then they have the search. And with respect to the search, I do think that OpenAI is a threat to the search.
And you own OpenAI too.
Business. We do own OpenAI.
And so, but is your view that Waymo ultimately gets spun off? For example, some people talk about that possibility.
I don't know if they spin off because you don't want to spin off a good business and be left with maybe one that's under attack.
Right.
I think all these tech companies, you've seen, they try a bunch of different businesses. Some work, some don't. But Amazon invented AWS. Google invents Waymo. Apple invented the whole ecosystem of the iPad, the watch. So I don't think so.
What about Elon? Where's Elon playing all of this in your mind?
I think Elon has gone back to being an entrepreneur. He's hyper-focused. I was speaking to some of the all-in guys who know him well last week and mentioned that he's basically...
They were at your conference too, I heard.
24/7 at... when are you going to come to the conference, Andrew?
The invitation lost in the mail. I got to look.
So I think Elon is back. And when he's back, he can do great things. And the robotaxi started 2 days ago. And I hear it's a sort of a near magical experience to be in a car with no driver, and the car makes no mistakes.
Philippe, are you an investor in any of Elon's businesses?
We're investors in SpaceX. We have very small investments in X.AI and I think Neuralink. And we also have a small investment in Tesla.
Interestingly, by the way, I don't know if you saw, Sam Altman made a comment recently about whether OpenAI could ultimately actually do self-driving.
Yes. I think that the ambition of the OpenAI CEO is very great, and I love that. You want to be around the most ambitious people in the world. He wants to compete with Apple. He did the deal with Johnny Ive. He wants to maybe do a social media. He's talked about that. I think you try a lot of different things, and you see what works out. I don't know if he'll do the platform immediately.
What about the relationship between OpenAI and Microsoft? I know you invest in OpenAI. You think Microsoft's going to be a big player down the road, but there has been a lot of media talk about frictions between those two companies and the partnership they've built to this point. Are you an investor in Microsoft?
We also happen to be an investor in Microsoft. Yeah. And listen, some of these companies, you start doing a partnership and then you realize that you both want the same prize. And then that becomes a problem. So maybe it's a version of that that's going on. But I know that both Amy, the CFO of Microsoft, and Sarah, the CFO, they're working hard on it. And I would think that a deal is going to be made.
Like, if the deal isn't made, who suffers more from it?
Maybe short-term OpenAI and a long-term Microsoft. So I think at the end they'll make a deal.
Interesting. We're going to run out of time. I got to ask you a question. I don't know if you can answer it or not. You're on the board of ByteDance. We all want to know what's going to happen to TikTok. What do you think?
I used to be a director. Now I'm a board observer, so it's a little different.
Okay.
I think President Trump has given 3 90-day extensions.
Right.
That probably shows that he wants this to be solved, and I hope that post-tariffs, things will be solved. I think in the US, if there's 2 strong competitors, Facebook and TikTok is better than 1, and 2 competitors force each other to innovate versus having 1 on their own. So I'm hopeful there'll be 2. I'm obviously extremely biased in what I'm saying.
Okay. Philippe Lavant, thank you.
You want to ask about New York?
Yeah. What do you make of the mayor situation? You got a big operation here in the city.
Yes.
What did you say?
Had a big. I think we had Mayor de Blasio for 8 years. New York is really strong.
Yep.
I'm hopeful the same will happen.
Okay, so you're not.
We said it.
He's not throwing in the towel.
De Blasio.
Right.
Yes. Emphasis on survive.
Right.
So hopefully we'll be fine. And listen, you make it like a fait accompli. It's not quite done yet. There's still an election. Maybe Cuomo will re-enter as an independent. There's Adams.
Well, if you do so well, can you self-fund some of the police in case it gets cut back or something? Can we? I mean, that's what I'm worried about.
Well, I think well, there's that question, but the other question is, do you think that there are people in your business who are going to say, you know what, 2% on top of what we're already paying? You know, some people are going to be paying 60%.
60%.
And they're going to say, you know what, we didn't love Florida before, but maybe Florida, and we'll figure out a way to be here 179 days a year.
Seminole.
For sure.
Did you say Seminole like the golf course?
I did.
Yes. Hey, I'm still working, you know? I'm still working. Some people are going to for sure go. I think that if you want to attract young talent, you got to be in New York. Right. There's just no way around it. And those people who left in Florida, outside of Citadel, I feel a lot of them miss New York. So we'll see.
Okay. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you, 3 of you.
Come on back.
Really appreciate it. Awesome.
But again, congratulations again.
Thank you, guys.
What wasn't it? I keep hearing about it from a million different people who were at your event. So
thank you.
Done.
Really appreciate it.
You weren't congratulating him on his name on the.
Oh,
Beach.
But
Pebble Beach
I'm like 5 months late.
This
apparently.
is permanent. You're like with people
that was
like
back in
Jack
February.
and Tiger and Philippe Lafont. Up next, you're okay with me mentioning that, right?
You already have. I don't think there's much I can do.
Up next, a look at this morning's pre-market movers. We're coming right back.
Thanks.
Top line?
This is a quality, comprehensive exam.
Come again?
You asked me to top line it for you.
Okay. Bottom line?
Well, the bottom line is this is an amazing value. What? Get 2 pairs of progressives and an eye exam starting at just $159.95 at America's Best.
Nate Jones lines things up, checks his Fidelity app, looks to outside analysts to get a second opinion. Nate likes what he sees. And he places the trade.
Talk about easier investing.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
We are going to write the future of healthcare, one where care is more personalized, more accessible, and much lower cost. This IPO is an important moment, but it is still just the beginning of our story.
Overtime's about understanding what just happened in the markets that day and preparing for tomorrow. I'm looking to talk to sophisticated investors, beginning investors. I'm always learning.
Closing Bell Overtime, weekdays 4 Eastern and streaming on CNBC+.
I am Polestar 3. I am pure electric performance. From the straightaways to the hairpin turns, I am designed to be driven. The drive of tomorrow. I am Polestar 3.
Order submitted.
Enjoy tariff-free pricing on Polestar 3, now through June 30th.
Vital Farms farmers are up early every day for their hens, but couldn't you just sleep in?
Do you like waiting for your breakfast?
Vital Farms. Good eggs, no short.
Order submitted.
All right, welcome back to Squawk Box. I'm Dominic Chu with a quick check on your morning movers. Let's start with NVIDIA. Those shares are higher by about 1% after Loop Capital raised its target price on the stock to $250 from a prior $175. That's an almost 70% implied upside from yesterday's closing price. Loop said its research shows that we are entering the next quote-unquote golden wave of Gen AI adoption and that NVIDIA is at the front end of another leg of stronger demand. So keep an eye on those shares. Now we got shares of General Mills. They're lower by roughly 3% right now after reporting better than expected earnings and a slight miss on revenues for the quarter. The maker of brands like Cheerios, Low Play yogurt, and Haagen-Dazs ice cream is also forecasting a bigger than expected drop in its full-year profits. CEO Jeff Harmening saying he expects the operating environment to remain volatile amid uncertainty from tariffs, global conflicts, and changing regulations. And we'll finish with a check on shares of Tesla. Higher right now by just about 1%, despite sales in Europe slumping for a fifth straight month, down roughly 28% in the month of May year over year. That's as overall EV sales jumped 27% in that region. Tesla's market share in Europe is just over 1%, with customers switching over to some cheaper Chinese models. Tesla shares are still up, as you can see, about 20% over the last couple of months. So we'll keep an eye on Tesla shares. Those are your morning movers. Becky, I'll send things back over to you guys.
All right, thank you, Dom. Let's take one more look at the markets before we hand things over. You can see right now the futures have continued to build through the morning. We were up about 5 points for the Dow 3 hours ago. Now you're up by close to 32. The NASDAQ 100, which hit a new high yesterday, has indicated up another 100 points this morning. And the S&P 500, which again, we are within spitting distance of an all-time high. Yesterday's close put us 0.9% away from an all-time high, and this morning you're indicated up another 15 points. Let's check out Treasury yields because you will have Jay Powell speaking before the Senate today. And ahead of that, the 10-year Treasury is at 4.31. The 2-year is yielding 3.8%, and oil prices, which were down significantly over the previous two sessions, down 6% and 7% over the past two sessions, up by only about 1% today. WTI is sitting right at 65.01. All right, that does it for us today. We're going to wrap things up, but we will see you right back here tomorrow. Right now, it's time for Squawk on the Street.
Well, you're looking at a live shot of the NATO summit in The Hague. That is where President Trump is set to hold a news conference. This comes after a big win for the president. NATO allies have agreed to more than double their defense spending target. It was 2% of GDP will now be as much as 5%, that by 2035. We're going to bring you live coverage of the president's remarks, of course, when they begin. Good morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm David Faber alongside Jim Cramer. We're live from Post 9 at the New York Stock Exchange. Carl has the morning off. Let's give you a look at futures as we get ready to begin trading for this hump day, as we like to call it, Jim and I. And we are looking for another up open. Of course, yesterday, a strong session. as well. We're going to get to the markets in just a minute as we await the president, of course, as well. Jim, you know, let's just start there. Very close to all-time highs. The hostilities between Israel and Iran have ceased for now and perhaps for good. So oil certainly down. Right, who knows?
And could go down much more.
Oil down yesterday. Of course, those who were short crude long the market were very happy. Does it continue? And are we now back to sort of talking a lot more about tariffs?
It's so strange, David. There's a move this morning from a couple of firms. Melius with a really good piece. Loop Capital that say it's happy days are here again. But I'm going to quantify that. They're saying that now that all of this has been, that what you just described, dissipated, we're looking at an NVIDIA-led market, which deserves to be much larger as a percentage of the stock market. Rice just talks about how it could be dramatically larger, kind of like 1980 with oil. And that's what's percolating. Away from that, we should be talking about FedEx, right? Because FedEx has got the best read on the economy. But there are just a lot of people who are really what I've described as all bulled up, whether they're in the large cap techs or the QuantumScapes and the Oklos, the things that you and I don't talk about that sometimes make me feel like, are we crazy?
I know. Well, I mean, there's a more speculative part of the market. Certainly quantum is. Now, we've had the Oklo CEO on. They're talking about their ambitious targets for building nuclear power plants. And obviously, the stock has had quite a move. Back to this, it is funny to get back to what we spent so much time, the three of us, typically talking about, as we should, which is the AI ecosystem.
Right.
Who's benefiting, who's not, who wins, who loses. And to your point, I know there was a very long piece as well out today. I think it was Bank of America that had a very long piece in terms of their sort of overall view of so many of the different things going on. Is that, does that stand or?
Yes, I think it does. Jensen Huang they've got their shareholder meeting today. I don't expect any fireworks, but it's going to reaffirm that what's happening is that industrial revolution is on.
And by the way, I just stopped you, but there, there's one of the headlines.
Yeah, that's big.
Right. I mean, look, these numbers are yeah, $5.5 trillion roughly in global IT spend. They see the AI part of it growing to $820 billion by calendar year 30, and that is a huge compounded annual growth rate.
Right. Now, there are people who are saying, look, NVIDIA could be a $6 trillion company. Now, just a few months ago, we thought NVIDIA was going to be destroyed by DeepSeek.
Didn't last too long, the old DeepSeek moment,
it was
but
like
yes,
boom, and then you had
a couple of weeks
day.
of
then you had NVIDIA being shot down about China. Now you hear, wait a second, they've got these incredible accelerated computing chips. They've always had that, and they have, frankly, when you see this build out of data center,
order submitted,
the Indiana one, the Louisiana one, when you go into those things, all you're going to find really is NVIDIA chips. There's some. There's look. We're going to have
some others. It's interesting how things are starting to. There was I think it was a heard on the street today in the Journal about NVIDIA's cloud computing effort as well.
Okay, that was a sabotage. I read that piece. I've got it right in front of me, and I just said, okay, this is just something that it's never meant to be a challenge.
Okay.
And to see that piece is to say, did someone want to stop this NVIDIA move? Because if you actually look at how little that business is and how it's just kind of something they train on, it's ridiculous. But it's going to stop people. There's a last ditch short attempt.
Yeah.
That is not like it's a lot like Zinderloff.
Interesting. Interesting you see that.
That's the Fortin.
Yes. At the same time, there is something that's somewhat reminiscent for me of the 90s and the telecom boom and the vendor financing part of this, where you've got the companies such as NVIDIA, for example, the relationship with CoreWeave, and many others, and AMD may have these as well, where they're helping to finance the very building of the facilities that end up buying the chips from them.
I'm not disagreeing with that, but let me tell you something. I was doing some work last night with a guy named Joe Fahmy. How about this? Maybe this bull market is 1995 to 2000, and maybe we're in 97, 98.
Really? It's an interesting place you're going there.
Let me give you the next slide. The guy, let me give you, Bloomer's going to be the mayor. I mean, no. I mean, this is, I'm just saying that let me go back to what I said at the beginning. There are people who are trying to justify this move in any way they can.
Yep.
Then there are people who are trying to stop this move any way they can. And it's all about NVIDIA breaking out to new highs. There used to be actual commercials that would run about people talking about how billionaires who left the stock And you looked at them, you say, wow, they left it. Now you look like clown, bozo, crusty. I mean, look, I need that.
I want to come back to this work you did. You mentioned some gentleman's name I don't know.
FAHMY. It was something.
And then you said this could be a moment akin to 97, which of course, I mean, I remember those years well. Sitting across from Joe Kernan. They were the K-Tel years.
Right.
I mean, they were the insanity.
Remember, I got invested for Wave 4?
And speculation. Yeah, remember it all.
I was not short the stock.
I think you started the Street.com around then.
95. Some people say 96. But there was a company called Wave 4, and I said it was a fraud. I wasn't shorted. And by the time the SEC was finished investigating me, the company had gone out of business.
I remember that. You were a guest on Squawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said,
you got yourself in all sorts of trouble. Yes.
Case closed. I said it was a 20. It went to 0.
Right. I mean, again, to that period when you bring it up, on obviously having lived through it and reported on it, there were so many questionable companies. And by the way, the public, I mean, we had companies coming public every day that had no business.
No business at all.
That is not this period
That's 99. 99 was the year, and then the first 3 months of 2000.
All right, but what you are saying is that the AI boom in some ways could mirror, if not exceed, that of the internet, and in terms of what that means for the market.
I'm just cribbing Jensen Huang. I mean, every time I say something like that, I just remember what he told me on multiple occasions. So far, he's been right about pretty much everything. And he's about to have, Blackwell shipping in volume, which means that you can start getting the yield up and the gross margins go higher. That's their new chip. And this is it. This is the fulcrum of this market. If this stock can break out to a new high, there's going to be panic buying.
It's so refreshing to have a show again where we talk about NVIDIA.
Yeah. Now, hold on. There's a second track, though.
Tell me. What do you got?
The Robinhood track. Put up a chart of Robinhood.
Okay.
Okay. This is...
I like the way you did that without even looking. Yeah. Just it was an over-the-shoulder point.
Well, bounced off the helmet, and I caught it. Okay, so you look at this, and you say to yourself, what is this? This is a whole new group of investors. And these are the people who are taking up circles, the Coinbases.
Yes.
These are the believers, David. And we would normally say that this ends tragically. I'm not saying that.
Why not?
Because it doesn't seem to have a top. And you know what's leading this one? You know Palantir.
Oh, yeah.
So you have, on the one hand, you have NVIDIA. On the other hand, you have Palantir. And these are pincer moves against the shorts. And they are all about saying to these traditional hedge funds that have 20% short,
I know, well, a lot of this, to your point, given Robinhood, a lot of this is retail buying. The retail investor, by the way, held fast during the sell-off that we had after Liberation Day.
Yes,
they were right to have done so as now we approach new highs. By the way, Robinhood, that's a new high.
I know. People were shorting enterprise software. I mean, come on. There's a ServiceNow piece today from Davidson. They're the Bisons, kind of like, not unlike Bucknell. And I look at it and I just say, are you kidding me? ServiceNow, is it going to double? Probably.
No,
I'm saying that they've made it a special bison, but what a special? I was in, I was in British Columbia. I saw a wolf. I saw a sea bear.
You saw a wolf?
I saw otters holding hands. Those are all mine.
Otters holding hands.
Yeah, I'm making this an otter.
That's good luck, by the way, if you see otters.
Oh yeah, I'm making AMD a sea wolf pit. Who does this stuff? I mean, are people being paid to do this?
Well, not very much anymore. Not like back in the 90s when they were doing all the banking businesses analysts.
Oh, my God. Let's get some of those names back.
Those guys made a fortune. Now these poor analysts, I don't know what they're bringing home.
Those guys are selling goggles.
Yeah. And whatever it is,
GoDaddy.
Mayor Mamdani's going to take it all from them. But
why don't we talk FedEx? Because that's a real company.
Sure. Let's do it.
It's a real company.
There it is. He's holding up the press release of FedEx. Shares of which, by the way, are looking down when we open 20 minutes from now.
Because business isn't that good. Particularly business to business. Business to consumer holding up.
Yep.
They're taking out $4 to $5 billion. Supermania is doing an amazing job. Now, the call correctly at the beginning was devoted to Fred Smith, who founded this company, a great American that everybody knows in the industry, it seems. But this company, David, is a great bellwether.
It is, and you point that out many times. It's funny, I come back to that interview you did with him in the earliest days of his CEO-ship, where he called for a recession
incorrectly, but they have been flat. Business to business has been flat for 30 months. And every time it looks like it's about to go up, you get a Liberation Day kind of thing. Remember Liberation Day?
Yeah, I do. It feels like it was a very long time ago, but of course it wasn't.
Was that Peter Navarro's numbers for Vietnam? Remember, Peter?
It was April.
Peter Navarro. I mean,
April. By the way, I want to get back to tariffs, but let's take a listen to Raj, the CEO of FedEx, from last night's call.
We remain focused on what we can control. For FY26, we expect to achieve $1 billion of transformation-related savings, which includes Drive and Network 2.0. There's a lot happening outside of FedEx. Trade policies are evolving and trade patterns are changing. But what's truly remarkable is the significant way we have leveraged our technological capabilities and processes to navigate these complexities and operate more efficiently for our customers. Network 2.0 is the next leg of our structural transformation, and it is well underway.
Interesting, because what he's saying is you can't really forecast. How can you forecast if you know 3 weeks from now?
Well, right.
Commerce could shut down.
July 9th.
So,
I mean, again, for all the conversation we've having, which, by the way, has not included anything about Iran and Israel or the oil market, we are going to come back, it would seem, to the extent that things stay quiescent on that side, to tariffs. July 9th
I'm not bearish, but
July 9th is very close.
This is a great company with a great CEO, and he is saying, look, my systems are all set up. We can figure out what the tariff is for you, if you wanted to know, like, based on this. But how can I go out? I mean, I have a meeting at 12 o'clock for the club, and I start by saying, listen, who the heck knows? But suddenly everyone's so certain, David.
I know. By the way,
how did this certainty come to the market?
I don't know the answer to that.
And isn't that
I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know to what extent, if any, we get a lot of tumult around or concern that tariffs are going to ratchet back up. We haven't reached any agreements other than with the UK. No. There, and any number of times you thought a deal with India might be close, or South Korea or Japan, haven't seen them.
We have not heard from this. Case didn't go to the Supreme Court. We don't know if the whole process is right.
And whether or not the emergency powers are valid that the president is using to impose these tariffs, that is also going to...
Well, what happens if countries believe that the Supreme Court is still a branch of the government?
Right. And actually could say, no, it's not constitutional. Yeah.
But then do we have an Andrew Jackson moment where he says,
I don't know.
Hey, listen, guys, I love you, but go with the robes, go back to Britain or something. I think that a level of certainty is again, another track. We have NVIDIA, but then we have General Mills. General Mills used to be a great company with solid growth, but it has got a guy at the Secretary of Human, Health and Services.
Yes.
Who doesn't like dye in food. No. Do you know what food really looks like? Do you?
Soylent Green, what does it look like?
No, Soylent Green is actually...
It's not food.
Go ahead, do your Edward G. Robinson invitation. But food looks awful.
It's people.
Food looks like people.
That was Charlton Heston, actually.
The Donner Party, it's a cookbook. No, I mean, look, I just say that when you look at that was...
I know that one, too. Great one.
When you look at General Mills...
To serve man. Yeah.
When you look at General Mills, which numbers were just abysmal.
Again, not the first time.
It's secular. It's like the downgrades you keep seeing in Constellation Brands. Secular. So there are sections of the market that are just uninvestable. They're huge. And then there are a couple sections that are great. By the way, finance is great.
Yeah.
Because of M&A and because we don't...
There's no M&A. You keep saying because of M&A.
Well,
what are you talking about?
the Justice Department
M&A.
to Fredonia. They did. Hail Fredonia.
We're waiting on M&A.
Can you imagine if you were like a career?
We've gotten some. If not for Brad Jacobs, there'd be no M&A. That guy.
And he offers a huge amount of shares.
$2 billion QXO wanting to raise another $2 billion.
Put a negative piece out from not that long ago. They don't know that he's Houdini.
Through an offering. All right, well,
come on, let's go.
No, let's actually take a break.
No, man, I'm going to lose my voice during the break.
Get your voice back, drink some tea. We're going to wait for the president, of course, to begin his news conference. That will be at the NATO summit. We will bring that to you live. Let's give you another look at futures. 15 minutes before we get started here with trading at the New York Stock Exchange. We are looking for a higher open, a lot more squawk in the street straight ahead.
In the age of AI, smarter threats need even smarter protection. CrowdStrike Charlotte AI is delivering the future of cybersecurity for what's now and what's next. Built on the intelligence of every breach we stop and refined by human expertise, Charlotte AI gets smarter so your business stays safer. So you can build for tomorrow with confidence and efficiency and protect what matters most. That's why the businesses you trust CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike. We stop breaches.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Welcome to Reinvented with Accenture. I'm speaking with Carlos Torres Villa, chairman of BBVA.
Embedding change as a value in itself, to fight the status quo.
This idea of continuous reinvention, I think, is really important. It doesn't end.
It does not end. Having a vision, conviction, the courage to make bold decisions until you see meaningful results.
Never miss a moment.
Every outside forecaster and the Fed is saying is that we expect a meaningful amount of inflation to arrive in coming months.
Right now, it's not that costly to hold, right? The economy is doing well. The unemployment rate is low.
If the unemployment rate goes up, they're probably going to be more likely to cut rates, even if the inflation rate is at 3.5%.
Luxury isn't about where you go. It's about how you feel getting there. With the thrill of 375 horsepower and the convenience of a 14.5-inch display. It's about being able to see things bigger than ever. And turning a playlist into a concert. Welcome to the 2025 Genesis GV80 and GV70. Get the GV80 for 2.99% APR for 60 months. Exclusively at your DFW Genesis retailers.
I have Usher syndrome, a rare condition that's causing me to lose all of my vision and hearing at the same time. I'm a fighter, trying to hold on to what I still have. But I can't do it alone.
Brutal. Okay, let's talk Korean. And by that I mean bibigo beef bibimbap. I eat, you read. I like this job.
We're watching developments, of course, at the NATO summit. That is where President Trump will be holding a news conference, perhaps within the next 40 minutes or so. Of course,
we'll take it.
Whatever time it is, we will take it. But as for right here, what's next? That's Jim and his mad dash. Of course, we are 11 minutes from an opening bell.
And when I got there, they have the sushi like
This is Clem.
They're built like sushi, classy.
Clem's not a morning person. Or a night person. Or a people person. But he is an I can solve this in 4 different ways person. And that person is impossible to replace. You need Clem. Clem needs benefits. Work with Principal so we can help you help Clem with a retirement and benefits plan that's right for him.
Short, but I'm confident, you know.
Let our expertise round out yours.
She's been there for you through everything. And now you're learning this next thing together. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
My name is Mike Hammond, founder of Cigna Relief. Much of my career has been working in construction. I love outdoors and horses. That active lifestyle is what has caused my body to hurt. I didn't want to let this affect my family or my life, and that's what motivated me to create a team to build the Cigna Relief Patch, clinically proven to reduce the impact of pain. The patch is a game changer. No creams, no pills, no wires. The patch is reusable, and there's a real money-back guarantee. Whether it's your neck, back, knee, shoulder, or just aches and pains, this patch can give you your life back. When I gave my best friend a patch with tears in his eyes, he said it was the first time in 16 years he did not hurt. Join the hundreds of thousands who found relief. I'm asking you to try the Cigna Relief Patch today by going to our website. If you're thinking about buying, it means you need one. You have nothing to lose. I promise the patch works.
At Corient, wealth management begins and ends with you. We believe the more personal the solution, the more powerful the result. We treat your goals as our own. We never lose focus on the life you want to build. And our experienced advisors design custom-built strategies to help you get there. It's time for a wealth management experience as sophisticated as you are. It's time for Corient.
Let's go! We need samples from living dinosaurs.
You want to take samples while they're alive?
Jurassic World, rated PG-13.
We're entering fiscal year 2026 with a incredible backlog, over $750+ million. We're setting our targets again in our guidance for between $1.9 and $2 billion in revenue. We delivered over 40% quarter over quarter last year's fourth quarter versus this year's fourth quarter results in terms of top line, strong profitability. We have purpose-built this company for the critical strategic priorities of the U.S. national security and our allies. And we're just getting started, and the future looks really bright for our company.
All right, man, I think we gave it away, right? What is going to be in the Mad Dash? Why are you doing this company? Other than he was a guest on Mad Money.
Because of NATO.
Okay.
See, this is a company that's our primary drone company.
Primary drone company, yes.
And they need more drones because every single badass country is providing drones to the Soviets, the Russians, whatever you want to call them. These guys have a counter drone, a laser. It costs dollars. They can shoot.
A laser?
A laser. Yes, Mr. Bond. I want you to die. So you have to understand that this may be what the biggest winner with the NATO budget.
Really?
And yes,
Stock hasn't done much.
No, but it's breaking out today. I think it's going to break out.
Morning. It's gonna be hard to trade today.
They bought a company called Blue Halo for $4 billion. They can consolidate the whole industry. People initially saw the stock down $18, and I'm like, looking at them, like screaming at the TV. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But I just say you have to understand the counter drone technology is now ours. And the quarter itself was fine. It was terrific. I mean,
I'm red on everything. Yeah, I was short at 471.
Besides me, what do you have?
This fucking market sucks. I'm down on my pro, so maybe no payout today.
I'm trying to pick a winner. Well, it's helping. Look what you're doing. Point pounds here was a little baby company.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
When it was private. Now, just bear with me. People go bear with you all the time. People say it's Lockheed Martin and RTX. They're going to win. But I'm saying how
hopefully Jay Powell will dump it.
To shoot down drones because everyone's
he'll be on at 9 all time, so 10 Eastern. Yeah. Trying to get back. I just want to get out. I'm trying to play today. Or this week. Yeah, it's hard to play with everything's like close to all-time high. Well, and QQQ is all-time high. 5 is all-time high too.
In the name of Max Levchin, who is Ukrainian from a firm that stock goes up much. SoFi goes up.
It's over 600. Oh no, you talking about SPY?
This was just the Mad Dash.
Oh, it's just... Oh, you're right. No, my 613 is all-time high. So not yet. QQQ is all-time high, but not SPY.
So members only event. The club. It's really about empowering you to manage your own life. Join the CNBC Investing Club to access Jim's monthly meeting.
I hope Jim's over soon.
/monthly meeting.
Not for me. I'm negative. Last month I was pretty good. Just, I think first 2 months is the best.
Crispy chicken. It's from a taco place. It's crispy chicken. It's from a taco.
We have 4 minutes.
Hey, this crispy chicken's from Taco Bell. The taco place? This chicken is so perfectly crispy with tortilla chip coating. It's from the taco place. What?
Oh no, I had also the 150K eval on both Tradeify and Tech Profit. So I'm down with a lot of them. Doing 2 and Q of those.
Put a price on that.
I mean, you can.
Just those accounts, yeah.
You make a price that's affordable for you.
Bundle and save with the personal price plan. Like a good neighbor.
I shouldn't even touch that Pro until like markets open.
AI to make a beautiful website so fast it'll blow my customers' noggins while they're shopping.
Not really, just slow. Well, when I woke up, it was like slow grind up.
It's
yeah.
a smart move to get a second opinion.
Well, Trump's gonna be on today too, I think. I think Trump's coming on today.
Medical advice. So why not with your stock market investments? We can help you see opportunities you may be missing. At Henyon & Walsh, it only takes a second to schedule your free second opinion. So what's there to lose? Henyon & Walsh, the second opinion people.
When we started feeding Dougie the farmer's dog.
Man, remember Hood was at $8 and they had like 1,000 shares.
Lean and healthy. In the morning.
Because of Leo who kept telling me about Hood, and I did. How long ago was that? 4 years ago? 3 years ago? Man.
Invests with the foresight and vision
Yeah.
to anticipate the needs of
85 now. Wow.
portfolios that deliver lasting legacies.
Yeah. Huge print.
Just around the corner. 25 years of yesterdays. Nuveen knows your ultimate stakeholder
Yeah.
is tomorrow.
You think he hell?
Nuveen. Invest like the future is watching.
The opening bell is brought to you
Yeah.
by Nuveen. Invest like the future is watching.
I think he's trolling. I don't think he's cutting
we
it.
got a little less than 2 minutes before we
Cutting
get started trading
accurate.
here at the New York Stock Exchange. Here's a name we don't talk about too often, Jim. We've got an upgrade of
Yeah,
Kraft
they're good, really good friends. I talked to Brett last time. He said, no, Patrick's just trolling.
Go back, and it's probably not going to look much better than that. It was May 20th when the company put a
He's
press
trolling.
release out
What's the name?
that it
Kevin.
announced an ongoing evaluation of strategic transactions to unlock shareholder value. And you did have the Buffett or the Berkshire directors stepping off. But Berkshire hasn't sold its stock as far as I'm aware.
Give us a drop at open. 30 seconds. Let's go.
Jim, and I'm curious to get your thoughts overall that the idea of them being able to do anything here is far
Are you in
from
any
clear when it
position?
comes to actually unlocking value.
Okay, so Carlos Abrams Rivera is really running the show, and he's putting out a lot of new
See, my
products.
spot puts it down 30%, so it's going to be down more.
Taking over the ketchup. Okay, they're expanding product. You know, David, it used to be a great American.
Let's get the opening bell for you here. Just call out the names. Of course, you can see the real-time exchange. If we looked on futures, we thought we'd have a little more green on there. It is the Brazilian meat processor, JBS, and celebrating its
It's
recent
all
listing.
red. Damn. 30%.
Over at the NASDAQ Crane
I only got one each. I
Futures,
didn't buy
Global
any more.
Humanoid and Embodied Intelligence Index ETF. Oh
So
boy.
what's the
There we
level?
go. I got the
570 is max.
It's just about getting capital flows.
Stanford's got those the hospital.
Yeah. Bot.
It's kind of funny when a Brazilian company, while we were talking about Kraft Heinz,
Bot's
getting
still
a course.
long.
You remember, I mean, that's, you know.
Yesterday morning.
They had all sorts of systems that were going to
Yeah.
work. In the end, the dogs would need it. You know, when you write new and improved on dog food, what's up? The
I'm
dog
scared to
food
average down on my TPT Pro, but I might.
But again, just to finish that conversation on Kraft Heinz, neutral is now the rating at Goldman Sachs.
470. I'll average down at
Here it's Coinbase.
Order submitted.
Yeah. I'm talking about the Pro. I don't care for the eval. No. It's just one.
Netflix. By the way, David, Bear starts shooting. Really? The Bears coming back? Yeah. The Bears coming back. Wait, on what? That's Hulu. That's not Netflix. It's not with us anymore. No. We're Prashant.
Is that now?
It's a Hulu show.
Wait, it's down. Tesla's red.
Trump says that he calls us all the time. Brian Roberts. Right? He's control of the. No, I just mentioned.
Man, he made money. I'm not sure why he got back in when it's like up. I think it was 10% that day. Yeah, I think it's a robo-taxi news, but they didn't pump that long.
They can get anybody. No, they, as we said many times.
Was it? Get me out of there. I just want to sit out. I don't want to trade anymore this month. If you buy more evals. No, I won't. People say it's going for all-time high, but I don't know.
I remember my first interview with Larry Culp when that was the problem child and he didn't have answers at that point. Interview was so good. He found a lot.
I thought robo-taxi would be better, but it wasn't.
Really, Larry Culp is an unsung hero. People don't care. Well, we've been singing a lot about. We have. In a key of what? We have. I mean, there's aerospace. That's what he's running now. You have Vernova, of course. You also had medical. I haven't looked at G Medical as well, but that's G Healthcare. No, you add them all up together. It's stop. You're okay. I mean, you're not back at where you were in 2000. I don't think.
Order
You're
submitted.
a lot better than you were in exactly 2000. Because it looks like it had the greatest move ever. But
200 points on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it was during that period again that we were discussing earlier. GE was right. It was along with Cisco. Microsoft at the time. Cisco for largest market cap in the world, and the only name that
sitting on overbought for a long time.
Is Microsoft. But Cisco 268 billion now. Yeah, I think he can go to 400. I really like what Chuck's doing. I'm going to talk about it today. As we take a look at the conference call. Yeah. By the way, all right, you were talking Netflix. Let me just share a little bit on Warner Brothers Discovery, which, of course, is the other side of that. Is this about the closing of Porterhouse in Zaslav? It is not the closing of a steakhouse that David Zaslav likes to, you like to go to. You and I have had dinner there a few times. Yes. And you and I are going to recreate that place. The rent's too high. You know what? The new mayor, potentially, of New York is going to freeze the rents.
Seems like it.
And everybody eats for free.
I'm just waiting for J Powell to save me.
Yeah. But the rich. No, well, not shot. Not yes. They get taken away. Yes, they get taken away. We have to go 24.
Order filled. Order submitted.
Donnie. Maybe he's more
order canceled.
Primary for mayor and potentially the successor of Eric Adams. That said, there's still a general election to come.
Order submitted.
By the way, of course, we're here. We talked about it, but we are talking about a $2 trillion economy. It's not. Yeah, it is a. He wants to get the rents down. One good way to do it is stop all business and drive everybody out. That'll bring the rents down. That's a very good point, right? In Jersey, where I am. Yeah. All right. I wanted to talk Warner Brothers Discovery quickly because it's something I have been focused on. Remember, the split's been announced, but they had that tender for a lot of their debt. They borrowed as much as $17.5 billion in a bridge from J.P. Morgan that replaced that, by the way, with long-term financing. But what they were able to do here is reduce, after you get through the taxes and fees, they paid basically 82 cents on the dollar for the bonds they bought back. So gross discount, they reduced indebtedness by $3.2 billion. After taxes and fees, I'm told closer to $2 billion, but not insignificant, Jim. And of course, most of that debt, which is roughly $34 billion now, but now will be $32 billion, will be going with the networks
order
business,
filled.
and not with what they deem the growth business, which would be streaming and studio, which will compete obviously directly with.
Order canceled.
It is on the curve.
No, I didn't hit.
No, you have to look through. They tendered for so much. I know. I don't know where they ended up. This really is Jersey. So the reason why
order
now he can divide. He might be able to divide the studio. Yeah. From
order filled.
From
order filled.
Wait.
Order submitted.
Get the studio away from cable. He has. That's no, but I'm saying the studio will be a standalone. You won't believe how much that's worth. You mean away from the? No, you can't separate
the studio from Max. The studio produces all the stuff that's on Max.
Order submitted.
That's what they are doing. The separation is all the cable networks, and
It's going to work now because the biggest worry was the debt and the
like you just now you're backing into it's going to work.
How about Fox News? See that?
Yeah, you move on. Better to move on quickly.
Yes. No, I'm trying to get a hold of him. I'm trying to get a hold of him so I have something more to add. That's what I do here. While you're talking, I get a hold of people.
I know you do. Well,
Oh, we got 20 minutes.
Little tense.
I know you do that. Talking to your kids.
Here. Oh my God, look at this. This is an important person. Somebody said, tell Jim we'd love to have him come and open a replacement restaurant to Porterhouse.
Who's that?
At Columbus Circle.
That Tim?
I'm not going to tell you who that is, but I've said it on air. So
we have SoFi tonight. I should
answer, why'd you raise the rent so much?
Well, look, David, I'm mentioning that because I think that there may be maybe what's been going on positive in real estate in the city might cool.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of questions now as a result of, again, that Democratic primary result last night with a socialist. The heartbeat of capitalism is potentially going to be run by socialists.
Socialists should.
May not go that well.
I wonder if he thinks the people are like a sack of potatoes. Engels. Engels. Not the comedian Engels.
Yeah.
That more serious.
What's going to happen? And I don't think a lot of other people are certain either. By the way, again, general election yet to come. Who knows? Eric Adams could pull it out still.
Look at our leadership here.
Yeah, let's talk back to the market. So we got
so real companies, Old Dominion.
We are so close. 6147 is the all-time high in the S&P.
Do you have the hat?
I got no hats. Please think of the late Art Cashin, by the way.
It's two markets.
Yeah.
I want everyone to understand that the hedge funds tend
Weird,
to be in the
Tesla's
wrong
still red,
markets and
everything
are
else is
short a
green.
lot of the stuff that's going crazy. CoreWeave, Circle, and I think people have to.
Jim, are we going to get back to worrying about lockups on some of these?
Okay.
Remember the old lockup days where
40's going to
the
hit.
amount of shares
Do
available
not want
for
to average
sale
down.
increases dramatically, particularly for IPOs where there was not a lot of stock sold on the actual offering, and that can bring a significant downdraft.
That's what
and allow people to short.
What happened in 2014? A lot of companies came public with a sliver, and then they lose the market after the lockups ended. I've gone to some of these companies and said, listen, guys,
Order submitted. Order filled.
Advance lockup and take advantage of this.
Order
Go to
filled.
Phil, you can do
Order
it.
submitted.
What do you mean by that? Sorry.
But you see, listen, go to the government and say, look, we said we'd
Order
be locked
submitted.
up for 6 months, but there is, there's
Order
such
canceled.
demand. This thing is now an imperfect.
So move it early.
It's only 5:05 to get out now.
Could we please have an early lockup release? And I've been
Yeah.
urging companies to go do
Order
that.
submitted.
Sucks. I got two. Just two only. I don't like to be down more than $200.
But if some of these get an early lockup, well, would that mean you get a downdraft? Or you're simply saying there's so much pent-up demand that it could pick it up and the stock would not suffer that
Right,
much?
and again, I'm
Order
using
canceled.
a 1995 to 1999 analysis.
You just got the
not
Tesla
a
call?
2014 analysis, but the 2014 could be in play. If we start getting a lot of deals that are small in terms of what they look. Now, David,
Order
let's go back to
submitted.
China.
Let's go back to Chime. Chime went public.
Tell me what happened in China that did not catch fire.
I don't have an answer for you.
But you remember the CEO?
I did. I interviewed the CEO. We sat down for an extensive interview. The stock is, as you see, just barely above where it came public. It doesn't, it's interesting, isn't it, Jim? I mean, again, well, why? Well, Circle is stablecoin and crypto, and CoreWeave is AI. Chime is about, the unbanked and getting people who don't have bank accounts to have them and not have to
One
pay
little
fees.
drop so I can get
But
out.
It's a different story than the one that has traction in this
I'm
market.
hoping we have SoFi tonight that we might get
Anthony Noto's coming on tonight.
clarity because he understands what's going on.
Yeah,
because there's just a lot
505,
of
but I
stuff
put
going on in
profit
that-
at 503, so I can get some money.
Stablecoin. But we'll be back on this CEO MasterCard.
What did he have to say?
I said, look, we'll do it. But it maybe it works cross
But
border.
it's nowhere from going short. But 15 minutes now is overbought, so
No one wants it. We spent 15 minutes talking to the CEO of Visa yesterday, most of the time also about that same subject of stable coins and what that will mean for their business.
The cross border, it could hurt.
Yes.
But the demand for it from the consumer side is not that great because people like trust. And there's not as much trust. But hey, listen to
trying to listen to who's trying to listen to Chip in my ear? I can't hear anymore. All right?
Why don't you tell my whole classroom?
Well, he's telling me that we can listen to some of the MasterCard CEO on your show.
That's a good idea. Let's do
Would you
that.
like to do that?
Yeah, let's do that. It's really good.
Good.
If you look at innovation in payments, it always comes down to a couple of central things. People got to trust it. They got to understand, what is it doing? It's got to be simple. And it's got to be secure. That's the standard for debit, credit, prepaid. Everything that has ever happened, buy now, pay later, you name it. So stablecoins in itself is a rail. So we have leaned in because we said, okay, it actually does help in some use cases. Let's take its cross-border payments.
This guy,
That's helpful.
right. This will do it.
No.
Yes. Very similar to what we heard from the Visa CEO yesterday around this time.
These guys are both really smart, and what people don't realize is these are gigantic.
So you don't
I think we'll
that
pull back a little bit for J
duopoly is
Powell.
threatened?
No,
You don't
I don't think that duopoly can ever be secret.
ever?
David, the government has tried it over and over. These are two really well-run companies, and I find that they're
That trade for
efficient.
eval is
They're
gonna
not
blow.
good. They provide a valuable function, but when we go to restaurants now, and you see we're not
Yeah,
paying that
they're gonna
3%,
stay relative for CPI, YOLO. Can't pass those big ones.
When you're Walmart or Amazon, you don't want to pay it. Percent of your revenues, that's a big number.
right, but nobody says that really happens.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna drop
But now it's always
60 points.
Order filled.
There's two of them. Watch
I
out.
mean, by the way, the market
Order
cap
submitted.
also, it's so funny. They're just the quietest, 1.1 plus trillion in combined value, aren't they?
Yes.
Order
There's a
canceled.
septuagenarian
Yes, that would be somebody in their 70s.
who runs Capital One,
Yes.
and everyone says he really can't do anything. That's Richard Fairbank. Now he's dealt. He has discovered. If he picks up, this is a club name. If he's 5% of the market, if he goes to 7%, stock goes.
You've been very positive on this for a while.
Stocks taking it, stocks taking out its high.
And the deal they did as
New
well.
high
the
day.
deal.
That was the
now.
only one that I don't know how that Biden administration let that go happen.
Order
Is there going to
submitted.
be a countdown on Nvidia? 151 and 153 is the high.
I guess we are going to do that.
To me, that
Back in the old days, we would have had a countdown clock, probably.
we should put one in.
We're not quite there yet.
Remember when all those billionaires were selling? Where they put their money in? Are they short?
Which billionaires are you talking?
I used to see this list of billionaires.
Yeah.
Who sold Nvidia. Well, they were wrong.
They were wrong.
Why not?
That they were wrong.
Take what, 200 points?
I do still listen. There are still plenty of questions ultimately about competition that
Yeah.
comes from some of the hyperscalers who are
Wait,
developing their
isn't
own
it
chips, what that will mean.
22780?
The year after. And then also, but after that, and there are also questions ultimately about whether you can continue or will need as much compute as we do now, or more, or less. That things will start to
Did you hit payout, Chris?
level off a bit.
Well,
How you see it?
When I see the spending, Oracle, Amazon, Meta, I think we're early. I mean, these new sites are so much bigger.
Again, and not to mention the CoreWeaves, the Lambdas, the Nebiuses, you go on these neo clouds that I'm learning about.
Nebius is a Robinhood stock versus.
Is it? Yeah. Although it's kind of real. I mean, they're doing this.
But I'm just saying that CoreWeave is a huge company. But David, CoreWeave is the kind of company that ought to be issuing stock in that balance sheet.
Well, we were just talking about the end of lockups, and that would probably seem to be the first order there, as opposed to issuing.
Yes.
So just like, yeah.
You know, I got handed to them, and they pulled it off. I'm not going to trade him. He's a Jersey guy. He's not in the Valley. The Valley. Remember when the Valley was what we talked about?
Yes.
That's all we're going to talk about again. That's so final tonight. They don't think I've really clarified what they're doing tonight, what they're doing to talk.
Well, we got time in the show.
Regarding crypto advantage, remember, they used to offer crypto. This is really about some other things. They're now seeing
Wait, what is this, on Tradify TV or just on Twitter?
Do the bond market report here. There's
Oh.
Anthony.
East Street Shooter.
Yeah.
West Point.
Yes, tonight on Mad Money. All right, let's check out how treasuries are faring this morning. Of course, we haven't really been focused on yields. Well, coming down, but of course, we're going to hear from the Fed chair again. Senate testimony today. That will be upcoming in the next hour. As you take a look at the 10-year, hanging around 4.3%, with the 2-year at
He's pulling back.
3.8%. We'll be right back.
Yeah, 503 to get out. Well, now they're pulling back for J Powell. I'm happy. Get me out. Now sit out. I think 500 support now too.
Without cancer research funding, my child would not have a father. My wife would not have a husband. I wouldn't be here. Simple as that.
The American Cancer Society is the country's largest nonprofit funder of cancer research outside the federal government. And we need your help now more than ever.
You taking
For
the
just
tray yet, Gambit?
$5 a month, you can be the reason someone survives.
Whatever you're able to donate,
That's funded, right?
will be everlasting.
Become a monthly donor today.
I have to start over my MF next month.
And you need to take action now. My name is Mark Jacob. I got my broker's license in 1966. I've invested through 9 recessions, several massive market panics, and many bull markets. Today I have a warning. During volatile market moves like the one we're in now, most people freeze up. They just hope everything will get magically better. And it's a recipe for
They're trying to
disaster.
pull back for J
You need a
Powell.
big picture plan, and you need to take specific action starting today. My new briefing lays out what we expect to happen in the markets this year and in 2026 as well. This research is based on the market cycle that we call the bear market in 2018 and
I woke up
2022.
hungry. I need some nuts.
2023 and 2024. Visit the website on your screen to see my detailed briefing in full.
This holiday, celebrate the freedom to cook anything, anytime, anywhere. Only on a Blackstone, America's best-selling grill.
At University of Maryland Global Campus, every week you learn something.
3 minutes
It
is
just
still going
enhances
up.
skills that you're bringing to the table. You should never want to stop learning.
me out.
There's new things that happen every day with technology. You can
Oh,
immediately
yeah, only down
jump right
$50
in
now.
and use
Come on.
those skills. Because of my degree from UMGC, I feel confident. I have the background when I walk into any room. And you can go conquer anything in the world with
Should I just get out? Should I just get out now?
Welcome to CNBC Plus, market destination.
No, I haven't. I'm deciding to take a small L. I'm out. Yes, I made $13. Oh, I was negative 160. Whew. Yeah, thanks, J Powell.
As we await President Trump's news conference at the NATO summit, let's get over to Megan Casella for more. Megan.
Hey guys, good morning. So this is a news conference that will wrap up a very quick trip by the president.
It's all about sizing though, because I don't size heavy, you know.
Summit, but we do expect him any moment. He's had a series of pull asides this morning with the head of NATO, the leader of the Netherlands.
I hope a long time.
To be on his bilateral schedule as well. So watching for all of that, and then just a few pieces of news to watch for from this press conference. The main one being that, of course, this is happening against the backdrop of everything going on in Israel and Iran. There continue to be a lot of questions about the level
Nice.
of
On your
destruction
funding?
sites following those U.S. strikes on Saturday. So expect that
Hell
to be
yeah.
a main topic of conversation here and of reporter questions as well. The other thing just to flag is that a NATO summit declaration has been signed, and you mentioned this earlier, but NATO members have
No,
agreed
I don't
to
wanna.
up
I
their
don't wanna do
spending
anything
on
to
defense
after J Powell.
5% of
Still got some
GDP
old
by
bags to get out. That's a nice drop though.
context here. That is a very high level. The U.S., according to the Defense Department, is at a record low at this point. Last year, spending less than 3% of GDP.
I
on
think
defense
550.
spending.
That's
So
where I
it's
was
a high
at.
level for
That's
these European
short.
countries, but that's been a main theme this week. The only other thing I
Order
would flag
canceled.
that could come up in this news conference is in this declaration. It's the first NATO summit declaration since the start of the
Order
Russia-Ukraine
canceled.
war that does not directly condemn Russia's aggression towards Ukraine. There had been questions
Order
ahead of
submitted.
time about whether the U.S. would sign on to a declaration that included
Damn, I should have held my
language.
short
Now we
longer.
know it's not in there, guys.
Interesting. Yeah, one would expect as a result of President Trump.
It's a posture on that. It's like they had been in a lull.
The defense stuff.
Yeah, and I think Lockheed Martin's very cheap. I think RTX is very good. I don't buy AV.
That's a good short, SK.
40. But I'm just saying that it strokes.
Yeah. Understood.
That's what it is.
All right. Also ahead, we got the day 2 of Fed Chair Powell's Capitol Hill testimony. This time, of course, he's in front of the Senate. It's the Banking Committee of the Senate, including Chairman Tim Scott, Ranking Member Elizabeth Warren.
You made money? Good shit. Oh shit.
We'll have you,
it's dropping.
As well, that press conference in The Hague coming up.
How long do we hit low a day? Internet went out.
Your shipping manager left to find themselves, leaving you lost. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. Sponsored jobs on Indeed
We're
are
back
2.5
up.
times faster than first hire.
Long was good. That's 7 minutes.
Life is always changing, and their Lovesac couch adapts to it. Gathering around for game day one moment, reconfiguring for entertaining the next. And tomorrow, a new look entirely. Because Lovesac adapts to life, our life.
Next on the red carpet, we have Gina Costa, looking
Lick me.
simply stunning with this season's hottest accessory. Oh, what's this? She's opening her Fidelity app.
Oh, I
to
see.
buy exactly the amount she wants. No fees or commissions. What will Gina do next?
You didn't get Tesla call, right? Damn it, it's down almost 3% now.
Get started investing for as little as $1.
What?
Investing.
Trading session, working the phones, talking to sources to
Is it
share
weeklies?
insights, information, all of the details that you need to.
Oh, you got time.
Nor'easter and streaming ice. In a Jurassic world, every Jeep vehicle is Jurassic rated. Experience open air freedom for all. Unsurpassed towing, no matter what it is. Or a third row to fit in all the adventure. Jeep, Jurassic World Rebirth.
Right now, with Employee Pricing Plus, purchase and get an average of $7,900 below MSRP on select 2025 Jeep Wrangler gas models in stock. Hurry, this great offer will become extinct June 30th.
Brutal. Okay, let's talk Korean.
And by that, I mean bibigo beef bibimbap. I eat, you read. I like the stuff.
Trading minutes. That goes by so fast.
I feel compelled to talk about something.
Okay, but what's not
a company that has done like clockwork paychecks.
I want to show
They
it.
announced a number that met
Orders filled. Orders submitted.
being slaughtered. I wanted to
Okay,
move
back in
on
the
that.
short.
They had an acquisition of Paycor. I think that position was good, but this is a stock that people are going to say, oh, maybe employment has slowed down. So we have to find that out because it's also reverberating to bottom activity.
Right.
Remember, the whole key of this market is as long as employment stays strong, we're not going to see a crater.
And there's you got your guest tonight, of course, Paychecks. That'll be interesting to listen to, given your questions there. And you talked about SoFi earlier with Anthony Noto.
Right. So these are
interesting to know, Jim. You mentioned the weakness in Paychecks and what that is hitting as well. FedEx, not unexpectedly, UPS is also down.
Look, these are big, important companies, and we can focus. If NVIDIA doesn't take out as high, we're all looking at that. And if Mike Brown reports a weak number tonight, we'll have them on tomorrow.
Yes.
And you and I were talking about what the heck was going on yesterday.
All right, you've also got a big monthly meeting, the investment club
That
today.
drop was weird earlier.
Some of the picks. I'm going to talk about the five ones you have to buy.
Don't tell me fake me out.
Very worried.
I'm sorry, they're very
worried about.
You go a little sotto voce on me there.
Yeah.
I do understand the word you say.
Say that things are we're worried about these positions I own, and you can't just say, "Boy, I hate the stock."
But you're going to tell the people in the investment club what you're worried about. You're not going to mumble it, right? You're going to say it out loud.
Well, look, this is like if you were running a company, running a hedge fund, and the investors call and you tell them, look, I am really worried about this company that is orange, grapefruit.
Mark is just too strong.
Cantaloupe. A fruit. Okay. There you go. You got your hint. Investment Club. That's noon, right? Noon. All right, he'll be right back here tomorrow as well. Coming up, though, we got a big hour for you on tap. President Trump, of course, will have that news conference from The Hague, and we got
I mean, it's
day two of
still
Karen
the
Powell's
bottom
Capitol Hill
everywhere, so I don't know. It should.
I'm Tony Steen, digital strategist at AmericanEagle.com. After Kansas City Steaks experienced declining traffic and conversion rates, they came to us primed for online growth. We solve digital challenges like this all the time. By leveraging an omni-channel digital marketing strategy, KansasCitySteaks.com attracted new customers and significantly
2 more minutes.
ROI. For complete website and digital marketing solutions, go to AmericanEagle.com.
Oh, even Trump is on TV too?
Listened to a lot of wonderful speeches from the heads of a lot of wonderful countries. But I want to thank you for joining us at the conclusion of a highly productive NATO summit in the Netherlands. I want to thank them for the royal treatment they've given us. Couldn't have been nicer. And it's a beautiful country, really a beautiful country. Coming in, I saw the most beautiful trees. In fact, I want to bring some back with me. I want to also thank, I had breakfast this morning with the King and Queen, and they're incredible people.
I don't think he's gonna go right on TV, by the way. I think they have to wait.
Beautiful people, great people, big beautiful heart. And enjoyed that. And also NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, who's been terrific. He's been a friend of mine. Used to be right here running this wonderful country. Now he's the NATO Secretary General. He's doing a fantastic job. And the Prime Minister, we appreciate everything you've done. And as you know, last weekend, the United States successfully carried out a massive precision strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. And it was very, very successful. It was called obliteration. No other military on earth could have done it. And now this incredible exercise of American strength has paved the way
He's
for
gonna have to, I think it's testify again, so it's looking like big.
Monday, and we call it the 12-day war. Spoke to a few people. I guess that just sounded like
just
the
testify.
right
Something like
12-day
yesterday.
war. And we think it's over. I don't think they're going to be going back at each other. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not only have we dealt decisively with the critical threat of Iran's nuclear program, which was what
Right now TV's showing
Iran cannot have a
Trump
nuclear weapon.
only.
I've said that for 15 years.
Order now to
We've decided to do the political thing, but we've also reasserted the credibility of American deterrence, which is like no other. The people at NATO said there's never been anything. You know, I rebuilt the entire military during my first term, and we have a great military, we have great generals. Got to know the good ones and the bad ones. We kept the good ones. Over the past 2 days, I was honored to participate in the NATO leaders meeting and also had extremely good individual discussions with the King and the Queen, Secretary General Rutte, and the Prime Minister. Great discussions. Very knowledgeable people. Major focus of our conversations at the summit was the need for other NATO members to take up the burden of the defense of Europe. And that included the financial burden. As you know, it was like 2%. And we got it up to 5%. And they said, a couple of them came up to me. One in particular said, sir, we've been trying to get it up to 3% for 20 years, and we haven't been able, and you got it up to 5%. So they're going to be, most of them, I guess almost all of them are going to be contributing now 5%. The number that people are surprised I think you need it today. The United States accounts for 2/3 of all NATO defense spending. And since I began pushing for additional commitments in 2017, believe it or not, our allies have increased spending by $700 billion. I said to people, you don't have any money, and a lot of them weren't paying. And so I started the process and I picked it up as soon as I got back, which is 6 months ago. And following my election last November, almost all have accelerated plans to reach the 2%, 3%, 4%, and then ultimately very quickly 5%. And all of this is going to be done very quickly, almost immediately. You probably know this as well as I do. I'm sure they've been talking about it. It's really been a big focus. In a very historic milestone this week, the NATO allies committed to dramatically increase their defense spending to that 5% of GDP, something that no one really thought possible. And they said, you did it, sir, you did it. Well, I don't know if I did it, but I think I did. This will be known as the Hague Defense Commitment, which is pretty good, pretty appropriate. When the allies reach this number, it will add more than $1 trillion a year. Think of that, 1 trillion per year to our common defense. And this is a monument really to victory, but it's a monumental win for the United States because we were carrying much more than our fair share. It was quite unfair, actually. But this is a big win for Europe and for actually Western civilization. For years, past administrations failed to get most allies to contribute even the 2%. I remember when I came here, we had 4 countries that were up to 2%. And I remember Poland was there. A couple of them were there. And but most of them were. We had 28 at the time. As you know, it's increased a little bit. And they've agreed now to more than double their budgets in all cases. And Europe stepping up to take more responsibility for its security will help prevent future disasters like the horrible situation with Russia and Ukraine, and hopefully we're going to get that solved. Last week they lost 7,000 soldiers, mostly soldiers, but they're also getting hit in Kiev. They're getting hit in some of the towns also. And that means life. Life is disappearing also in the cities and towns. Should have never happened, would have never happened if I was president. Said it 1,000 times. And it never did happen. Never even thought about. But it's vital that this additional money be spent on very serious military hardware, not bureaucracy. And hopefully that hardware is going to be made in America because we have the best hardware in the world. You saw that where 14 missiles were shot at us the other day. And
yeah, my Q2 puts on the screen. That's good. Dang, Tesla's dropping hard.
They said it's fine.
Oh.
And everybody was emptied off the base. So they couldn't get hurt except for the gunners. They call them the gunners. And out of 14 high-end missiles that were shot at the base in Qatar, all 14, as you know, were shot down by our equipment. Amazing stuff. Amazing that they could do. It's like shooting a bullet with a bullet.
You get to Sam play pre-run guy?
If you think about 14 out of 14, and they weren't even
surprised.
I said, you do that well often? They say we pretty much do, sir. The Ukraine crisis has also highlighted the urgency of rebuilding our defense industrial base, both in the United States and among the allied nations. We cannot afford to be dependent on foreign adversaries for critical minerals. And as you know, we made a deal with Ukraine to take a vast amount of the land they have for minerals we needed. And once again, I want to thank all of the people in the Netherlands, incredible people. It's a great place. And all of the NATO allies for the tremendous summit that we just had. A letter just came in and a statement came in from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel. And I just wanted, this is an official letter, and they're very serious people, as you know. The devastating U.S. strike on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility totally inoperable. It was devastated. We assessed that the American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons for many years to come. This achievement can continue indefinitely if Iran does not get access to nuclear material, which it won't. It's so sad that that whole thing had to go. But I just want to thank our pilots. You know, they were maligned and treated very bad, demeaned by fake news CNN, which is back there, believe it or not, wasting time, or wasting it. Nobody's watching them, so they're just wasting a lot of time, wasting my time. And the New York Times, they put out a story that, well, maybe they were hit, but it wasn't bad. Well, it was so bad that they ended the war. It ended the war. Somebody said in a certain way, that it was so devastating, actually. If you look at Hiroshima, if you look at Nagasaki, that ended a war too. This ended a war in a different way, but it was so devastating. Also, they have out of Dubai, just came that Iran's foreign ministry spokesman, this is Iran's foreign ministry, says it's near its nuclear installations were very badly damaged by the American strike. So what bothered me about these reports were fake reports put out by the New York Times, failing, I call it the failing New York Times because it's doing terribly. Without me, it would be doing no business at all. But, and by fake news, CNN and MSDNC, all of these terrible people, they have no credibility. When I started, there were 94% credibility, the media. Now it's at 16%. And I'm very proud of it because I've exposed it for what it is. But when I saw them starting to question the caliber of the attack, was it bad? Well, it was really bad. It was devastating. They obliterated. In fact, you can't get into the tunnels. They just put that over. That just came out. They can't, there's nothing, there's no way you can even get down. The whole thing is collapsed in a disaster. And I think all of the nuclear stuff is down there because it's very hard to remove. And we did it very quickly. When they heard we were coming, it was, you can't move it. Very hard, very dangerous actually to move to. And they also knew we were coming. So I don't think too many people want to be down there knowing we're coming. With the bunker busters, as we call them, we're the only ones that have it. We have the best equipment, best nuclear equipment, and we have the best equipment in the world. And by the way, we can't forget our submarine, which was out there, submarines actually, but submarine was out there. We shot 30 rockets into an area, every single one of them. I think it was almost 400 miles away, I think, Pete, right? 400 long. It was in the ocean, long ways
I guess
away.
it's boring. I'm gonna work with my ChatGPT, make some graphics. It's boring as hell.
Every single one of them hit within 9 inches from where it was supposed to be. It took out a lot because we didn't do just Fordo. We did.
Yeah, I met a couple of them.
2 others in addition.
It's fun.
Which hadn't been completely destroyed, so we hit them.
2 hours a month is not bad.
From hundreds of miles away. Amazing.
I had to pay because I think the free one you only get like 2 images a day. So I just went on pay for those $20. Yeah, it's not too bad.
And the other was
it's still
connection lost.
Yeah, about a month. It's fast. It's a little bit faster, but it's not that fast. But my Ninja traders keep logging out, so yeah, what's her name is correct.
Places, but the one that we just came out, we released it a little while ago, was from the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, but numerous of them
Someone in here earlier was saying trader
and the
that was
site has been
missing.
demolished. And again,
What is she?
we had these brave patriots, these incredible flyers, these people that can fly a plane better than anybody can fly a plane, going into very hostile territory, flying into the territory that has got more missiles and things pointed at it. But it was very stealth. They didn't get to see it. It was dark. That's the amazing thing about the shots. They hit the shots perfectly, and yet it was dead dark. There was no moon. There was no light. It was virtually moonless. It was very dark, and the shots were hit perfectly. But when they get demeaned, they were very upset about it because they knew how strong it would be. Back in Missouri, the pilots flew about 36 hours, 2 ways. Far distance.
Shit.
And those incredible B-2s. And we then had the F-22s,
Nice.
and we had the F-35s, and we had other planes, and we had, I think, a total of 52
Okay,
tankers.
go ahead and dump
that
it.
means the big,
Get
the big
ChatGPT
tankers,
and get
because
out.
the refueling was a lot for all of the different planes that we sent. Incredible operation, and I have to say, General Raisin Gain was incredible. That's why he beat ISIS, and we beat ISIS in a matter of weeks. I was told it would take 4 to 5 years. We did it in a few weeks. And he was great. That's why he's the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff right now, because I had a very good experience with him. He knocked out ISIS in a period of literally a few weeks. Amazing. And it was supposed to take a few years, 5 years to be exact. So we had a great victory there, and we then came here, and I think we had a great victory here. But this is an ongoing project. This is the safety of Europe, the safety of the world. And they've raised it from 2% to 5%, something which nobody, and you're talking about over $1 trillion a year. So we're talking about a lot of money from coming in from countries that were not paying nearly enough to be effective. So I have, as you know, Marco Rubio with me and Pete Hegseth, Secretary.
Holy shit, Tesla's down 5%?
Should we say Secretary?
Wow.
Secretary of War. Maybe for a couple of weeks we'll go with that because we feel like warriors.
What?
Used to be called
Something happened?
Secretary of War. In fact, if you look
I don't
at the
see
old
anything
building
on Tesla.
next to the White House, you can see where it used
From
to be Secretary
Robotaxi?
of War. Then we became politically correct, and they called it Secretary of Defense.
shit.
Maybe we'll have to start thinking about.
I didn't think it was
changing
that bad. It was just
but we feel that way.
normal.
Do we have any questions, please? Wow.
Was it hitting cars or messing up? When I watched one on YouTube, it was fine.
Who's a nice person? Oh, you're not a nice person, but I'll let you ask one. Go ahead. What's he gonna ask? He is not nice
Damn.
at all.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for taking the time before flying home. You just said you believe the conflict between Israel and Iran is over. What
Dang.
makes you so confident it is? And what do you do if it isn't?
Because I dealt with both, and they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied to go home and get out. Can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. I think a big telltale
Trying to pull
sign
back.
is
Come
when,
on.
you know, Iran somewhat, but not much, violated the ceasefire.
Order, Bill.
Yes, I got it out. Woo!
52 of them. I said, you got to get them back. And they brought them back. They didn't do anything. They brought
Keep
them
going,
back. It was
baby.
very good. I thought it was
Give me
amazing.
just Tradeify.
Order, Bill.
How to Tradeify.
I think the war ended actually when we hit the various nuclear sites with the planes. And I just hope you people can give these pilots, these are the best pilots in the world. They're the best shots in the world. They call them shots. That's what they are. And wait a minute. And I just hope you can give them the respect they deserve because they came home to fake
Save
news.
my ass.
And like, oh, gee, there was hardly any damage. The things are decimated. So, but I think, no, I think they're very much finished. I think Israel's going to get back to doing what they do. And I think that Iran's going to get back. You know, Iran has a huge advantage. They have great oil and they can do things. I don't see them getting back involved in the nuclear business anymore. I think they've had it. They've been at it for 20 years. And I don't see that happening either. Now, if it does, we're always there. It won't be me. It'll be somebody else. But we're there. We'll have to do something about it. Yes, please, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, fake news, CNN? Oh, yeah. Here we go. Wait till you hear this question. You should really say how great our soldiers and our warriors are.
I think everyone appreciates our soldiers and our warriors. I do have two questions for you, Mr. President. You just cited Israeli intelligence on these attacks. Earlier, you said U.S. intelligence was inconclusive. Are you relying on Israeli intelligence for your assessment of the impact of the strikes?
No, this is also Iran made the statement. And it's also, if you read the document that was given, that we can talk about if you'd like, the document said it could be very severe damage, but they didn't take that. They said it could be limited or it could be very severe. They really didn't know other than to say it could be limited or it could be very, very severe. And you didn't choose to put that because it was very early after. Since then, we've collected additional intelligence. We've also spoken to people who have seen the site, and the site is obliterated. And we think everything nuclear is down there. They didn't take it out. Okay, question? Please, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think Trump said something, so it's dropping.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Yesterday, you said China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran.
Yeah.
Are you giving up on your maximum pressure campaign? Because
With
there are
who?
sanctions right now
With who?
on Iran.
No, look, they just had a war. The war was fought. They fought it bravely. I'm not giving up. They're with the oil business. I mean, I could stop it if I wanted. I could sell China the oil myself. I don't want to do that. They're going to need money to put that country back into shape. We want to see that happen. Would it? No. If they're going to sell oil, they're going to sell oil. We're not taking over the oil. We could have, you know. I used to say with Iraq, keep the oil. I could say it here too. We could have kept the oil. No, China is going to want to buy oil. They can buy it from us. They can buy it from other people. But you're going to have to put that country back into shape. It desperately needs money. Yeah. Yeah, please. Here we go. I'm picking the beauties today. Go ahead.
Mr. President, Secretary General Rutte has described President Putin as an adversary, a threat, an enemy. Do you view him the same way? And in addition to that, you mentioned General Kane, your chief of staff, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
General Kane.
Yes, he has said that Mr. Putin has territorial ambitions beyond Ukraine. Do you view that in the same way?
Possible. I mean, it's possible. I know one thing, he'd like to settle. He'd like to get out of this thing. It's a mess for him. He called the other day. He said, can I help you with Iran? I said, no, you can help me with Russia. Because, you know, in the last few weeks, we took care of India and Pakistan, Kosovo, Serbia. I think on Friday we have coming in, the Congo is coming in, and Rwanda is coming in. That was a vicious war that went on, a machete war. Heads chopped off all over Africa. They're coming in. We did two others in addition to that. Nobody's ever done anything like this. No, I consider him a person that's, I think, been misguided. I'm very surprised, actually. I thought we would have had that settled easy. I've settled 4 of them in the meantime. But he did call up and he said, you know, he's close to Iran. He'd like to help us get a settlement. I said, no, you help me get a settlement with Russia. And I think we're going to be doing that too. Yeah, please. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You've made clear your position on what impact the strikes had. I wanted to ask you what is next with Iran. For instance, is there any indication Iran was able to move any material?
No, just the opposite. We think we hit them so hard and so fast they didn't get to move.
Damn, sorry, man.
That material, it's very hard and very dangerous to move. It's called.
I think it's Trump.
And many people they call it dust, but it's very, very heavy.
Oh, you're talking about Tesla? It might be. It was bad.
They were way down.
The robotaxi was in the work for like 5 years.
35 stories down underground. Oh yeah, we think we think it's covered with granite, concrete, and steel.
Are you interested in restarting negotiations with Iran? And if so, have they?
So our people, Marco.
Well, Brett did say Patrick did get cut.
I'm not. The way I look at it,
Tradeify.
They fought. The war's done, and you know I could get a statement.
Either that or Patrick might be opening a pot firm. Who knows? But he is cut.
They're not going to be doing it. But they're not going to be doing it anyway. They've had it. They've had it. Now maybe someday in the future we'll want that. But I've asked Marco, do you want to draw, I just asked him the question as we were walking on the stage, do you want to draw up a little agreement for them to sign? Because I think we can get them to sign it. I don't think it's necessary. Marco, do you want to talk about that, please?
Mr. President, I think President Trump has shown a willingness to meet and talk to anybody in the world who's interested in peace. I don't know of any president that's been as willing as he has to meet with anyone and talk about peace. We'd love to have peaceful relations with any country in the world. And so obviously that'll depend on Iran's willingness not just to engage in peace, but to negotiate directly with the United States, not through some third country or fourth country process. But I know of no president, probably in our modern history, that's sought peace more than President Trump has.
No rush, is that right? Doors open.
I'll tell you what, look, we're going to talk to them next week with Iran. We may sign an agreement. I don't know. To me, I don't think it's that necessary. I mean, they had a war, they fought. Now they're going back to their world. I don't care if I have an agreement or not. The only thing we'd be asking for is what we were asking for before about we want no nuclear, but we destroyed the nuclear. In other words, it's destroyed. I said Iran will not have nuclear. Well, we blew it up. It's blown up. the kingdom come, and so I don't feel very strongly about it. If we got a document, wouldn't be bad. We're going to meet with them, actually. We're going to meet with them. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Mr. President, Netherlands TV, thank you for visiting our country. As an student, I would, of course, like to know how you slept last night. How's it?
Oh, I slept beautifully.
But probably a more serious question. I think you just had a meeting with President Zelensky. Did you discuss any ceasefire in this Russo-Ukrainian?
No, I wanted to know how he's doing. It was very nice, actually. You know, we had little rough times sometimes. He was, couldn't have been nicer. I think he'd like to see an end to this. I do. I think what I took from the meeting couldn't have been nicer, actually. But I took from the meeting that he'd like to see it end. I think it's a great time to end it. I'm going to speak to Vladimir Putin, see if we can get it ended. But look, these are brave people. They're fighting these wars all over the place. You know, last week they had, I guess, close. I told you, close to 7,000 young soldiers, Russian and Ukrainian soldiers, were killed. 7,000 in 1 week. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I'll be speaking to Putin. No, I had a good meeting with Zelensky, and I had a lot of good meetings. We had a lot of good meetings with a lot of people, a lot of great leaders. But he's fighting a brave battle. It's a tough battle. Yeah. Go ahead, white dress.
Thank you. Ida Hallikainen from Finland, Ilta-Sanomat. You have played golf with President Alexander Stubb. How do you see Finland as a NATO ally and partner, and how would you describe your relationship with our president?
Well, he's a very good golfer. Okay. In fact, he was in his college golf team. He went to a good college in the South, as you know, a very good college, and he was a good golfer. We had a good time. I think my relationship's great. I want to buy icebreakers. You know, you're very good at icebreakers. And I actually made him an offer. I didn't go to Congress. They'll try and impeach me for this. But there's an old, it's not old, it's fairly new, but it's used icebreaker. And I offered him about 1/3 of what he asked for. But we're negotiating. We need icebreakers in the U.S. And if we can get some inexpensively, I'd like to do that. Actually, they'll fix it up, make it good. Also, we may buy some icebreakers. You know, you're the king of icebreakers, that particular country. They make them good. They make them really good, and they know what they're doing. And so we're negotiating with them for about 15 different icebreakers. But one of them is available now. It's old, and it's old. It's like 5-6 years old. And we're trying to buy it. I'm trying to make a good deal. All I do my whole life. My whole life, that's all I do is make deals. Yeah, please. Go ahead. Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, question for NewsHour, Dutch TV. First of all, on Article 5, on your way here, you spoke about the commitment of the U.S. to Article 5, saying, I'll give you my definition once we're here. What is your definition, and may the U.S. commitment to Article 5 change in case some of the NATO members do not reach the threshold that was discussed today? My second question is following up on a colleague on Iran. What intel reports do say that everything over there was obliterated?
Yeah, well, there are numerous of those reports, and they're coming out fast and furious. But the most respected ones we've already seen. And I will say that on a very confidential basis, they're looking at the reports, like numerous reports, and including people going to the site and checking the site.
You're still holding it? You might just wait till tomorrow. Just hold on to it. It's down a lot, right?
Encapsulated. But no, the site was obliterated, just like I said it was.
Oh.
And just like the pilots should be given credit for. As far as Article 5, look, when I came here...
On the Pro?
I came here because it was...
You play NQ, that's why.
To be doing, but I left here a little bit differently. I said, I watched the heads of these countries get up. And the love and the passion that they showed for
Are you
their
short or
country
long?
was unbelievable.
Oh, you were
I've
long.
never seen quite anything like it. They want to protect their country, and they need the United States. And without the United States, it's not going to be the same. And you can ask Mark, or you can ask any of the people that were there. It was really moving to see it.
I don't want to change anything
They were
because
so respectful of me because I'm
and then you try to keep logging out, so I'm kind of scared.
The King of Saudi Arabia, when I was in I was in the
Yeah,
Middle
it's
East.
over 5%
I
now.
was in Qatar for a different reason, not a reason to get shot at. We were in there for economic development reasons. Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. All three leaders of those countries, and we took back $5.1 trillion into the United States. All three leaders said, you know, you're presiding over the hottest country in the world. The United States right now is the hottest country. Everybody wants to be there. Everybody wants a piece of it. He said a year ago, your country was dead. You had a deadhead running it. You had a country that was dead, and it was dead.
You got
You had
lucky.
people pouring through the border.
You got a green,
You had
right?
inflation, you had everything. He said, you've made it in
Hey, it's money,
5
money.
months at that time. You've made it the hottest country. This is the hottest country in the world. The United States right now is the hottest country in the world. And when I was around that table, it was a nice group of people, many of whom I knew from previous. When I saw the passion they had for the country, almost everyone, and you probably have the tapes, it was very public, but almost every one of them said, thank God for the United States. Without the United States, they couldn't really have NATO. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. It will in the future because now they're paying much more money, but it wouldn't work. It was great. And I left here differently. I left here saying that these people really love their countries. It's not a ripoff. And we're here to help them protect their country. Okay, we'll do one or two more.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah.
A question on Spain. Are you satisfied with today?
Oh, I think Spain's terrible what they've done. No, I do. They're the only country that won't pay the full up.
I still
They
have a
want to
short
stay
I
at
need to get
2%.
out.
I think it's terrible. You know, they're doing very well. The economy is very well. And that economy could be blown right out of the water with something bad happening. You know, Spain is the only country that, are you from Spain? Good, congratulations. You're the only country that is not paying. I don't know what the problem is. I think it's too bad. So we'll make it up. You know what we're going to do? We're negotiating with Spain on a trade deal. We're going to make them pay twice as much. And I'm actually serious about that. We're going to make Spain, I like Spain. I have so many people from Spain that it's a great place and they're great people. But Spain is the only country out of all other countries that refuses to.
No, it's just Trump's too.
And, you know, so they want a little bit of a free ride, but they'll have to pay it back to us on trade because I'm not going to let that happen. It's unfair. It's unfair, Internet. All right, sir, please. Go ahead, right in the back. Yeah, you tall one. The tall man.
Mr. President, Johannes Petra from Austrian National Television.
How are you?
Once said that you would end the Ukraine war in 24 hours. Later that you said that sarcastically.
Of course it was sarcastic.
Oh, my take profit is what would you hold on? My take profit is that it's 450.
Because it's more difficult than
yeah.
people have any idea.
It's just eval. It's okay, just an eval.
Frankly,
yeah, that's some free market.
Zelensky, you may have read about
So trader fight's gone from 10 days to 7 days on payout. So that's good.
Simmering for 30 years.
Yeah.
We ended Rwanda and the Congo. It's coming to sign the documents. We've already signed basic documents, but they're coming, I think, to the White House on Friday. We ended Serbia was going to go at it. But maybe the most important of all, India and Pakistan. And that wasn't whether or not they may someday have nukes like we're talking about in the Middle East, like we're talking about with Israel and Iran. This is they have nuclear weapons. I ended that with a series of phone calls on trade. I said, look, if you're going to go fighting each other, it was getting very bad. You know how bad that last attack was. It was really bad. If you're going to go fighting each other, we're not doing any trade deal. No, you have to do a trade deal. They said, we're not doing any trade deal. And in fact, I had the general.
Watch for Tesla.
Really was very impressive. The general from Pakistan was in my office last week. You know, Prime Minister Modi is a great friend of mine. He's a great gentleman. He's a great man. And I got them to reason. I said, we're not doing a trade deal if you're going to fight. And if you're going to fight each other, we're not doing a trade deal. And you know what? They said, no, I want to do the trade deal. We stopped the nuclear war. Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff. Here's another beauty, Jeff. He's a beauty, all right. God.
Mr. President, to follow up on Ukraine, will the United States contribute any more money to Ukraine's defense this year?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna get any calls for Tesla to bought short Tesla.
Meeting with the Dutch opposition leader, Mr. Wilders. Can you tell us about that meeting? And are you upset about his anti-Muslim stance?
I'm not upset about it. It's just his view. He's unhappy with the way things are going in this country and various countries. He was an opposition leader, and I was asked to meet with the opposition leader by the people that are running. I think they have some deal where if you have a meeting, you're supposed to meet with an opposition leader. I said, that's strange. That's what that. But I met. I didn't know him. He seemed like a very nice guy, but he's in opposition to the current people, and that was set up by the current people. So I assume when I met with the prime minister, you're supposed to meet with the opposition. We'll have to try that sometime in our country. Let's not do it. But I thought he was very good. As far as money going, we'll see what happens. There's a lot of spirit. Look, Vladimir Putin really has to end that war. People are dying at levels that people haven't seen before for a long time. Go ahead. Go ahead. White shirt. Oh, she's all excited.
So, BBC News Ukrainian.
Where are you from?
I'm from Ukraine.
Oh.
So my question to you is whether or not the US is ready to sell anti-air missile systems Patriot to Ukraine. We know that Russia has been pounding Ukraine really heavily right now.
Are you living yourself now in Ukraine?
My husband is there.
Well,
and
I can see you're very, it's amazing.
And me with the kids, I'm in Warsaw actually, because he wanted me to.
Is your husband a soldier? No?
He is.
He's there now?
Yeah.
Wow, that's rough stuff, right? That's tough. And you're living here?
In Warsaw.
And you're a reporter?
I am.
Good. So let me just tell you, they do want to have the anti-missile missiles, okay, as they call them. The Patriots.
No, I was trying to do the graphics thing. I'm not listening to him. What's wrong?
They're very hard to get. We need them too. We were supplying them to Israel, and they're very
No,
effective.
I can't.
100% effective. Hard to believe.
You're
how
still
effective,
trading?
but they do want that more than any other thing, as you probably know. That's a very good question, and I wish you a lot of luck. I mean, I can see it's very upsetting to you. So say hello to your husband, okay? Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. You were criticizing.
Where are you from?
Bloomberg News.
Oh, Bloomberg.
You
That's
were
wonderful.
you were criticizing the Federal Reserve Chair before coming to this summit.
I think he's terrible.
I was wondering if you've begun interviewing different candidates for the Fed.
Yeah, I know within 3 or 4 people who are going to pick. I mean, he got done pretty soon, fortunately, because I think he's terrible. We have no inflation. We have a tremendous economy. Hundreds of billions of dollars of tariff money is pouring in. Factories are being built because they don't want to pay the tariffs, so they're building them all over the country. I think we're close to $15 trillion. I told you 5.1 trillion from the Middle East alone, but of investment money coming in. There's never been anything like that in the history of our country. But we have no inflation. And we have borrowing because Biden stupidly, they did short-term debt. So we have borrowing coming up. And, we'll go 10 years, maybe longer, maybe shorter, but we'll go a long period of time when we do the debt. And because of him, because of this guy, we will have to pay for years. We'll be paying for him. And I said to him, listen, there's no inflation. He says, but maybe there is some. That's true. I said, if there is some, what you do is raise the rate. I'm okay with that.
I'm just
you raise the
waiting.
rate in 2 years from now or a year from now. But because the rate's high, we have to pay more for debt. It's pretty equal. In other words, if it's 4%, it's 4%. If you drop it a point, you'll pay 3%. So it's fairly equal. Not necessarily, but fairly equal. So we're going to end up paying maybe 2 points or 3 points more. 3 points would be about $900 billion a year because of this very average mentally person. He's an average mentally person. I'd say low in terms of what he does, low IQ for what he does, okay? Right. So instead of paying $900 billion, we don't want to pay 900 just because he doesn't want to lower the rate. I said, if there's inflation in 2 years or 3 years or 1 year from now, you raise the rate, you take care of the inflation, among other things. But he's probably a very political guy, I guess. I don't know. I think he's a very stupid person, actually. All right, one more. Let's go. How about you? Go ahead. She looks so happy and everything.
Thank you.
So I
I'm
picked her.
referring to, I'm Anabuk from La Vanguardia. I wanted to know if
You're where from?
Spain. I wanted to know if you want to.
He's everybody's stupid. That's against him.
I do like Spain, by the way. I think it's unfair that they're not paying, but go ahead.
Are you going to negotiate directly with Spain about?
I'm going to negotiate directly with Spain. I'm going to do it myself. They're going to pay. They'll pay more money.
A lot of
this way.
traders, not
You
everyone.
should tell them to go back and pay. You're a reporter. Tell them to go back. They ought to join all
Yeah.
of those countries that are paying 5%. Spain's going to be just about the only one that's not. They were the most hostile toward doing it. It just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, Kelly, go ahead. Here we go.
That's a lot, dude. What's funny is people say lease an EV car instead of buying because you lose a lot of value, especially the Tesla.
And U.S.
It's been obliterated.
Yeah.
It's been
What is your message then, sir, to the intelligence community when they present reports? You're not disputing the DIA report. You're just
They presented a report that wasn't finished. We're talking about something that took place 3 days ago.
I understand that's
The report was done
Yeah.
2 days ago. Wait a minute.
I'm doing just short this shit.
All they can do is take a
Let me see if the bot's gonna
Now, if
short
you take
yet.
a look at the
Bot
pictures, if you take a look, you know,
is
it's all
not
black.
shorting
You know, the fire
NQ
and
yet.
brimstone
Or
is all
anytime.
underground because it's granite
I'm
and
not
it's
gonna
all
do anything
underground.
off the
You
bot.
don't show it. But even there, with all of that being said, the whole area for 75 yards around the hole where it hit is black with fire. The group that's run by this gentleman, in fact, you may want to talk about it for a second because we're going to issue a report. And I think it's not even
Why?
a very exciting report at this point. It's been obliterated, totally obliterated. And
I think it's,
they did a report, but
inflation is
it
too
was like,
high.
if you look at the dates, it's just a few days after it happened. So they didn't see it. They said it may be very
So
severe.
you lower the rates, more
Do you
people
have a
gonna
message
borrow
for the
money and keep
intelligence community,
spending.
though, in terms of unvarnished information getting to you, that it's not.
I don't really have a message. I would say issue the report when you know what happened. I wouldn't say that it could be severe or
Yeah.
maybe not. They use the word severe. It could be severe or maybe it's not. So people like you picked up and said, oh, it's not severe. No, the report was not a complete report. Yeah, the message was probably wait till you know the answer before you say
Would
it.
you not have a public component to your Zelensky meeting for a tactical reason with President Putin?
Let him answer.
Hello, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah. There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to
These
spin
guys
it
are so
to try to
annoying.
make him look bad. based
All they
on
do is
the
try and
leak.
defend
I'm sure
Trump.
We've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And
So
what do they
many
do? They
dick
share the
sucker,
whole
man.
information or just the part that they want to
I
introduce.
know.
And when they introduce that preliminary
It's just sad.
report that's deemed to be a low assessment. You know what a low assessment
I
means?
don't remember
Low
people like
confidence
sucking
in the data
Biden's
in that
dick.
report. Why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence
Oh, you did?
of what was just bombed by 12, 30,000 pound bombs is
Yeah,
buried under
yeah.
devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an
Same
assessment
thing with
of what
Facebook guy, the CEO. At first he hated Trump, now he likes Trump
and
now.
go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak
There we go.
something to say,
Finally, the graphic is done.
low confidence, we think
Alright, let me show you
maybe
guys this.
it's moderate. Those that
Fucking
drop the bombs
ChatGPT is so slow. I'm paying $20 a month for this.
know exactly
What do you think?
happened when that exploded.
That's nice,
You know
right?
Who else knows? Iran. That's why
I
they
like
came to
it.
the table right away, because their
Upload
nuclear
that.
capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
But you're not disputing the report said what it said, even though it was initial.
The report said what it said, and it was fine. It was severe, they think, but they had no idea. They shouldn't have issued a report until they did. But we've gotten the information. I think Pete said it better than you can say it. And you know, you should be proud, you, especially you.
I think it's the same.
Those pilots, and you should
You just gotta make more days, but they let you get it out 7 days, which is good, but doesn't change anything for me because I don't go paid. Doesn't matter. I never got a payout, so.
Fake news, which is one of the worst. And CNN,
Fucking $100 away, and I blew that shit. I was so mad.
there's something wrong with them.
Twice.
You know what? You should be praising those people instead of trying to find
1,500.
By getting me,
So
by
that
trying
hurt.
to go and get me, you're hurting those people. They were devastated.
It wasn't an attempt there. It was like the 21st day. I was taking it really slow, yeah.
Times by a lot. And I got a call that the pilots and the people on the plane were devastated because they were trying to minimize the attack. And they all said it was hit. But we don't think it was really maybe hit that badly. And they were devastated. They put their lives on the line, and then they have, and I'm not referring to you, but real scum come out and write reports that are as negative as they could possibly be. It should be the opposite. You should make them heroes and heroines. You should make them really people that they
You
were
like
so
ChatGPT
devastated
now.
when they heard this news. And you know what they said? One of them, I spoke to one of them, said, "Sir, we hid the site. It
Oh, you pay $20 a month?
it was dead on." Because they don't understand fake news, because they have a
Why don't we
normal life,
share?
except that the
Yeah,
fly
cancel.
by
I'll
day
cancel mine. Give me your login.
you should be making them heroes.
I think you can. I mean, how they gonna know? We live in the same area.
White, yeah. White jacket, yeah. Go ahead, give my mic.
Me too. So we can't. No, we can't. We go out through the Google. I did the same thing because it's faster to sign up.
Is your friend. He called you daddy earlier.
Are you daddy?
Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of
If someone gets asked and call you daddy.
If he doesn't,
Yeah, it's on TV. Someone asking Trump, he called you daddy earlier.
Do you regard your NATO allies though as kind of like children, and they're obviously listening to you and they're spending more, and you're obviously appreciative of that. But do you hope that actually they're going to be able to defend themselves, defend Europe on their own?
I think they need help a little bit at the beginning, and I think they'll be able to. And I think they're going to remember this day. And this was a big day for NATO. You know, this was a very big day. They took it. One of the gentlemen said, "You know what? We've been trying to raise money raise the rate for 30 years." He said, 20 years from almost the beginning.
Oh wow, I didn't see NQ going back
He said,
up. Wow.
Until you came along, it never happened. What you did is amazing. It's been sort of an amazing day for a lot of reasons, but also for that. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think they can do it without you though in the future? Can they do it without?
Well, ask Mark. I mean, you have to ask Mark. Okay, so we're heading back. I want to thank these two gentlemen behind me. They're incredible people, both of them. They've done a fantastic job. And Susie's in the front, and she's done great. And Monica, thank you very much. That was quite an exciting time. And we're going to be heading back. We'll be back soon, and we'll see you in Washington, D.C. Remember this: we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
President Trump speaking at the NATO summit, talking mostly about Iran.
And you see Patrick Post on his, I think he made like 100,000. Hold on, let me see. Yeah, his affiliate money is 106,000. Holy shit, that's a lot.
He also said that they're going to be speaking, the U.S. is going to be speaking
Huh?
with Iran next week. And they can maintain their position, which has been very consistent. He said no nuclear policy. They may have some sort of agreement that that's not necessary.
Banking hard.
Bloomberg on the Fed share. He took the opportunity to continue to attack him, called him an average mentally person, low IQ for what he does, a stupid person, totally disagrees with his policy, and also made fun of him, actually mocked him for saying, "Oh, inflation might come. We don't have inflation right now," he said, so Powell should be cutting rates and helping us when it comes to these very high interest rates.
This while, of course, the Fed chair is testifying before the Senate Banking Committee, but again, nothing new there in terms of the president's rhetoric.
No, nothing new, just continuing to pile on. Megan Casella is with us to help break down.
Yeah, and I think he makes like $1 million on Apex too, so he's making way too much money. He just got kicked out. I'm talking shit to the owner. He was talking shit to Tradeify CEO and shit.
Was the president saying that he did not care?
It's like, I don't know. You know when you're rich, you can just think you can say whatever you want, do whatever you want. Think he's so big. That's like fucking stupid. Like, you just messed up your bag.
Or at least talking with them next week, but he doesn't care if there's an agreement or not. That was a
people don't make that much in a year.
In that tone, he said maybe sometime in the future we want
that.
But
making
at the
it a
moment,
month,
he doesn't
man.
think it's necessary. On the Powell point or the Fed chair point, I did think it was interesting that for the first time publicly he confirmed he has begun interviewing candidates to replace Powell, and he says he thinks he's within 3 or 4 candidates. He knows who he's going to choose, suggesting there's forward momentum there, and that despite just how much time is left in Powell's term, I think it's about 10 or 11 months at this point, they are moving forward on that. Maybe we will ultimately see an early nomination. The other thing on Spain that I would flag, he's very angry because Spain is the one country that did not commit to this spending pledge to increase their defense spending. He was saying that he would make
I never met
Spain
anybody
pay
that
in any
stupid.
trade
Guess
deal
he's
because
so
of that.
rich he doesn't
He
give a
can't
shit.
make Spain individually pay in trade negotiations.
Wait till all that
because the
money's
European
gone, then
Union
he's gonna start
negotiations
sucking, kissing ass
only
and shit
something
again.
That would be a punishment towards the entire bloc. I'll note, he can't do it towards Spain individually, but this is one more thorn then in the side with Europe. We already know those negotiations have been tough. It's one more thing that's on the table there.
I should have shorted.
Megan, I was going to ask you about Spain, and you made the point, of course, in terms of the potential negotiation. That said, we're dealing with a stock market right now that is not as focused any longer.
Should have. It went down. I saw 522 earlier.
Perhaps will be refocused again on tariffs in July 9th. The lack of trade deals, at least at this point, with so many of the countries that we thought might be close, whether it's India, South Korea, Japan. The EU doesn't seem to be. What are you hearing, or what are the expectations in terms of where we stand right now?
What we know is that they do keep saying there's one thing after the next that's been sort of filling the administration's plate ahead of the trade deals. First, it was the dust up with China that required everyone to go to Geneva and then London a few weeks back. They said that was why they hadn't gotten side deals. The latest we've heard this week is that the big, beautiful bill and those negotiations with Congress are now taking up
When is Labor Day?
some space, and that the trade deals will come after that. It's also very possible, of course, everything that's been going on in the Middle East has been a distraction
let me know.
as well. So I highlight
Text me the
they've been talking about all the
date
things
and
they've
at
been
least a
doing
month in
besides
advance.
negotiating trade deals. They say that's why we haven't gotten these side deals yet. Of course, other countries say it's because the negotiations aren't done, or they're not going well. There's different issues with each trading partner.
Yeah.
That's all to say that
Just
when we
let
get
me
to this
know.
July 9th deadline, we've already heard the Treasury Secretary say if negotiations are ongoing, they might postpone it. I think it's very possible, and there's increasing expectation, I would say, that we will see the
I don't
deadline
care for that
extended,
either.
at least for some trading partners. It's definitely not set in stone, but part of me thinks that that's what they're laying the groundwork for here when they talk about all the things they've been doing that's distracted them from the trade negotiations.
I mean, Market doesn't seem worried about it, right? Megan, thank you. Megan Gattell. The other point I would just make, we're about to hear from Fed Chair Powell again yesterday, and his comments here. He's very unfazed by the political attacks from President Trump. He's had them before. They're definitely getting louder and more intense now, but, just sticking with, we're doing what we need to do for the American people within our mandate. And I would also note that even the Republicans, and we'll see what we get from Senate Banking, have not been overly aggressive toward Fed Chair Powell. He's done a lot of work, sort of winning a lot of respect on Capitol Hill. So with that, we'll take some more questions and answers for the Fed Chair from the senators. Let's listen in.
We're working on all that right now. We're also going to, we have a proposal out to sort of smooth the results of the test from year to year. So this is something we're working on hard and expect to have important progress later this year when we begin to publish the models.
I'm anxious to see it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ricketts. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we were talking about tariffs a little earlier, the senator from Virginia talked about Australia. I will point out that Australia has, we bought about $28 billion worth of Australian beef, and they've bought exactly zero of ours. So there's an opportunity to be able to improve that trade relationship. So that's one of the things I hope will come out of the trade negotiation.
You will acknowledge there is still a trade. We actually have a trade.
We actually have a trade surplus with Australia. That is correct, but we'd like to sell more beef to them.
So that's an opportunity. But one quick question on that, kind of just following up on Senator Kennedy's line of questioning. So if a tariff was put in place and the prices went up, wouldn't that be a one-time event?
It's funny, we didn't even see Jay Powell talk. Right. It's been Trump.
Just a one-time thing.
So it might well be, as I indicated in my
Oh,
opening
now
remarks,
Jay
it might
Powell's
well
on
be a
TV now.
one-time, event, but that isn't the law of nature. You know, we would ought to make sure of that. We were more sure of that back in 2018 because we'd had 40 years of low inflation. Coming off of a global inflation episode where we haven't fully returned to 2%, it's something it's a question we will approach carefully.
But if the tariff is only put in once and just maintains the flat rate there, then how could that be inflationary in the second year?
Well, because it could be a process of many years. I mean, that's a couple of things. One is if it comes in quickly and it's over and done, then yes, very likely it's a one-time thing, like an oil shock, a one-time oil shock where the price comes back down, it goes through the system. It doesn't raise inflation, just raises prices once. But if you have a process that goes on multiple shocks for years, for example, or if the shocks are very large, that kind of thing. And I think, again, we have to be conscious of the current situation, which is people haven't seen 2% flat inflation for some years now, and it's different from what it was in 2018 when we had tariffs earlier, when we actually cut rates. So I'm not saying we're not reacting at all of this. It's a risk we feel like as the people who are supposed to keep stable prices for the benefit of the American people, we need to manage that risk too. That's all we're doing. We're not deciding what to do yet.
So Senator Warner's comment that a tariff is a tax, would that imply that then taxes could be inflationary as well?
No.
So what's the difference between a tax and a tariff? Or do you disagree with Senator Warner's characterization that tariffs are not taxes?
I wouldn't disagree with that, but it's not the language I use. Look, as I say, one time could be the base case, but in a situation like this where the process could go on for a long time, where the effects could be large or
like Tesla or what?
It's just something you want to approach carefully in a world where inflation is not back to 2%. And that's our job. If we make a mistake here, people will pay will pay the cost for a long time. And so we're just approaching the question carefully. That's all we're doing. You know that, a majority of my committee has said that they do expect to cut rates between now and the end of the year in the remaining 4 meetings. So it's not that we're, taking a strong view that it will be inflation and not a one-time cost increase. It's just that we're going to take a careful approach to that very critical question.
Okay. Well, let me switch gears a little bit. Communist China is our single greatest threat to America's national security and financial independence. Now more than ever, the U.S. must ensure the security of our financial system against Communist China's malign influence. And in 2022, Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee released a report identifying efforts by Communist China operatives to infiltrate the Federal Reserve System. The report contained real-life examples of Communist China's attempts and tactics used to target Federal Reserve officials. In late January, a former senior advisor to the Fed Reserve was arrested on charges that he conspired to steal Federal Reserve trade secrets to benefit and advance Communist China's interests. This Wall Street Journal article from May 2025 detailed potential ramifications of his actions. The kind of data and trade secrets that this Fed Reserve employee shared could allow Communist China to manipulate the U.S. market and gain advanced knowledge of changes to the federal funds rate. It could provide Communist China with an advantage when selling or buying U.S. bonds and securities. Chairman, has the Fed Reserve made any changes to strengthen its internal counterintelligence and security protocols since the development of these incidents?
So that's an incident, and I would say we take it very seriously. We have quite elaborate and serious and strict provisions around staff access to information, serious protections for confidential information. We have background checks. We have annual training. We have many of those things. I don't know that we've made any fundamental changes, but we're certainly, very sorry to see something like this having taken place, and we're certainly looking at the protections we have in place.
Great. Well, I have another question, and we'll just submit as a QFR, but I know the chairman said you've got a heart out, so I'll go ahead and yield back my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Chairman Powell. Good to see you. I want to start by acknowledging the continued uptake of the FedNow real payment system. I know I've raised the development and rollout of that system with you in many, many hearings over many years. We're now about 2 years after launch. I want to continue to work with you and your colleagues to encourage expanded adoption of the capability and capacity so that customers have real-time access to their money. So I just ask that we continue to work on that together. You agree? I do. I thought you might. Thank you. So I want to ask you about the student loan situation in the country. And you've talked about this in the past, and you've talked about how it can be a drag on the economy, especially when it gets to be very high in terms of balances that cannot be paid. According to the New York Fed, student loan balances grew by $16 billion to reach $1.63 trillion in the first quarter of this year. Data shows an uptick in the student loan delinquency rate overall, the age of delinquent borrowers, and the number of newly delinquent borrowers. Department of Education, meanwhile, restarted debt collection activities
Get that
last
payout
month,
and send me money.
in July, nearly 2 million borrowers could see
Oh, you're on
their
day one,
wages
though, right?
being garnished. Meanwhile, here in the Senate, President Trump and Republican senators are working to pass this piece of legislation that would limit affordable loan repayment options and make it harder for borrowers to responsibly repay their debt and get back on a path toward financial health. So, Mr. Chairman, you said before in your testimonies that student loan debt can negatively impact borrowers' ability to fully participate in our economy, and that it can weigh down on the economy overall. Is that still your view?
Yes, it is.
And could you just share your assessment, just from a factual perspective, about how this problem seems to be growing at this point in time, and what would happen if we allow all of these borrowers to default?
So the point I was making, I try hard not to comment on things that aren't Fed policy, but I broke that rule in this case many years ago, so I'll just say what I said then, which is, you can make all kinds of investments, and you can discharge if you can't pay back the loan, you can discharge it in bankruptcy. The one exception we make is student loans, and I ask whether that is wise national policy. People who borrow to invest in their education, that we do not forgive. It seems
Yeah, well, I do have
Congress to consider
the
that's all.
one
None of-
short
none
and
of the Fed's business
450, but
really.
everything else is
Ultimately, it's not
flat.
a big macroeconomic thing, but I've said it before. I said it again.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your breaking your own rule before, and I appreciate your
I won't do it again.
now. I could not agree with you more about the anomaly in the ability to discharge a debt in bankruptcy. The idea that student loan is the one category of debt that we don't allow to be discharged is confounding. I think, unfortunately, so far, it's been a sign of the power of some of the companies involved in that area. And I just came from another committee where I'm being the ranking member, so I apologize if you already talked about the tariff situation. But I know this was obviously a factor that you all had to consider in making decisions about changes in the interest rates. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty in the economy. I mean, I'm here every day from Marylanders, we have the Port of Baltimore, we have lots of small businesses that rely on tariffs. You're an economist, you know that increasing tariffs is like increasing taxes across the board. But can you just speak to the uncertainty component of all of this and how that is weighing?
I don't want to do $18 payout. That's too embarrassing low.
Show very
I want to,
people feel
yeah, I want at least $15. I mean, not 15, but 50.
tariffs in that answer.
I don't want to force a trade, you know.
In April, and has come down a little bit. If you talk to
Why does
businesses,
people
I
keep
talked to
talking,
an
man?
unusually
Can't
large
really
number
trade.
of business people in the last couple of months, and the feeling is a little better now than it was. They're getting on with it and
Yeah,
feeling,
but I'm scared. I don't know what the market's going to do.
I'd say surveys are still showing
15 minutes
depressed
looks like
sentiment, but
it's wanted to
moved
go
up
down.
from where it was.
I would say, Mr. Chairman,
But still
that may
not
be the
short.
case at this moment, but we all know that we could wake up any morning and see another tweet, and that
Yeah.
could change dramatically
It's not a big drop yet for the short, but the 15 minutes looks like it's gonna curve down.
To meet your dual objectives.
It's Senator Lummis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks, Chairman Powell, for being here today. As you know, what always vexes me and has for the last 4.5 years about the Federal Reserve is the bank supervision function as opposed to the monetary policy function. So I'm going to focus on bank supervision. First of all, I do want to thank you and Vice Chair Mickey Bowman for ensuring reputation risk has been removed from the bank supervision process. It was very arbitrarily used by those who were supervising. On January 27th, 2023, I'd call it the high watermark for Operation Choke Point 2.0. The Federal Reserve Board, in coordination with President Biden's White House, executed a coordinated attack to isolate the digital asset industry from the banking system. And while the Fed has taken steps to adopt a more balanced approach to digital assets, which I appreciate, the legacy of January 27th, 2023 remains with us today. So I'd like you to look at this quote. It says, issuing tokens on open, public, and or decentralized networks or similar systems is highly
Come on, give me a drop so I can get out and stay flat.
With safe and sound banking practices. So my first question is, do you recognize this quote?
Yes, not super clearly, but yes, I do.
Because it's from the Federal Reserve Board's policy statement on Section 913 of the Federal Reserve Act, which was formally adopted by the board on January 27th, 23. So now, Chairman Powell, I want to show you.
It's a lot of people blowing up. I think people going long, getting right now.
Can't see it clearly. I'll read it to you.
Oh, yeah, it's not a good time to buy the dip. Looks like it's gonna drop.
The Senate by a vote of 68
People are blowing up,
last week,
trying to long buy the dip like you.
To the board's policy statement on issuing stable coins on an open public distributed ledger. So my question is, what has changed about the risk of stable coins since the board adopted its policy in 2023?
I wouldn't buy the dip, dude. Wait till all this old geezer get off TV.
Congress has weighed in. At least the Senate has weighed in and sent the Genius Act to the House.
You are gonna buy the dip?
Does the board plan to withdraw the policy statement on Section 9?
Good shit, Chris. Log out. Don't be stupid like me.
What has changed is, if you go back, that's a couple years ago. That was the period
Nice,
of
good work.
high-profile
How many more days
failures
to payday?
and fraud and that kind of thing. And what's happened is, I think, the industry is maturing. Our understanding of it is improving, and in a sense, it's becoming much more mainstream.
Nice.
So all of us are revisiting, the things
I would
that
say
were
fuck the
done
button.
during that era.
Get the money
And,
first.
I
It's
think
been a while.
The current view is that, that it's appropriate for. I mean, it's always been appropriate for banks to choose their customers and to be able to undertake activities as long as they're safe and sound. In terms of, I think I have to get back to you on 913. I think it's a broader thing that has nothing to do with crypto, but that was a piece of it. We are looking at and withdrawing many of our pieces of crypto guidance from that era, though, as you know.
And I appreciate that.
I'm long at 400. Yeah, even on my trade station, 15 looks bad. And 30's going bad.
Instructing and admonishing your bank's supervisors.
I'll wait for the bot to. Oh shit! Let me get out. Let me get out. Let me get out.
When there are
that bot.
Order filled.
Got out one. Oh, I got out one of them. Got one more holding.
To bank regulators.
Something went short. I don't know. It was my bot or
winners and losers from among the customer list.
No, nothing.
Loan portfolios of banks.
Oh, it's pre-loan. I had a bot for pre-loan. So it went short on MNQ. Yeah.
And I do think that there was that kind of discretion.
So NQ is not short, but
banks,
MNQ is short.
and it had a negative impact, a real chilling impact on banks as they selected and banked certain industries and then debanked other industries and other people during the last 4 years. So
I think we'll
taking
drop.
the guidance documents and policy statements out is important, but also guiding the people that there are changes now and that they can no longer use their own subjective biases towards DEI and ESG and other things in supervising the banks is also a critical component of bank regulation.
I agree completely, and as you know, Vice Chair Bowman is actually a former bank supervisor, so she's very well placed to make that happen.
And I realize that she as vice chair is more directly involved in bank supervision. I hope that you will use your role to punctuate the importance of those changes within the bank supervision function at the Fed.
We're going to have to move on.
Thank you.
Assuming your answer is yes. Senator Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Chair Powell, and welcome to the committee. So Chair Powell, a few months ago, you issued a warning about the trajectory of our national debt. Speaking at a New York Times event, you said the U.S. federal budget is on an unsustainable path. The debt is not only at an unsustainable level, but the path
Order
is unsustainable,
canceled.
and we know that we have to change
Order
that.
submitted.
Would you still agree that that is true?
Yes, that's the one thing that I would always say, and that my predecessors have said, and that's the only thing we say about fiscal policy.
Exactly. And I would agree with that. At a time when Americans are struggling to figure out how to afford their lives and have low confidence in the economy, to add to the deficit now, as the big beautiful bill does, just strikes me as unsustainable. Now, I'm not asking you to moderate between Republican and Democratic policy differences on the big beautiful bill, but would you agree that the big beautiful bill
should go short
adds to the
soon. Let me
deficit
see.
based on the data that you've seen?
NQ is starting to go short, so a little bit more drop's gonna go short.
Well, I will just point out to my colleagues that the CBO says that it adds to the deficit. The Joint Committee on Taxation says that it adds to the deficit. The Yale Budget Lab says that it adds to the deficit. The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says that it adds to the deficit. The Budget Law says that it adds to the deficit. And even some of my Republican colleagues, Senator Johnson, Senator Paul, say that it adds to the budget. And
Now I'm just gonna wait on the
Senator
lot or
Johnson
something.
says it's wrong and immoral. So,
That's a long hold.
but let me just ask you an economic question. Can you talk a bit about what impact a rising deficit has on our goal of lowering costs for Americans, especially in the Trump tariff environment that we are in right now?
I'm sorry.
What impact does a rising deficit have on our goal of lowering costs for Americans, particularly when we are in this Trump tariff environment, the unpredictability of that?
I think it's likely that when markets are pricing longer-term Treasury securities, there's something baked into that in the market's thinking about interest rates. What should be the appropriate interest rate? But it's hard to unpack that with any precision.
These are factors that have lots of interplay between one another.
Yes.
Yes. And Chair Powell, could you just comment briefly about the potential risks of stagflation, where we have slower growth and higher inflation? I know this is something that the Fed guards against, and could you just comment a bit on the risks of that and what it means for regular Americans trying to afford their lives?
So we're not seeing that now.
Yeah.
It isn't really the base case that that's what we're going to see. But of course, that's a very difficult thing because
Are you still
the
trying to lie?
stagnant economy wants more stimulus, but an economy with more inflation wants less stimulus. So it puts the central bank in a hard place. We've warned of it, but it's honestly not something that we're facing or that we expect to face. But it's something we're monitoring is what's happening.
Thank you. I want to follow up on a question I asked you the last time.
Yeah, it's really hard. My options not
I asked about the
moving.
impact of severe weather events, otherwise known as climate change, on home insurance costs. And you testified that, I think you said,
Yeah,
if you
I'm still on the
fast
push. What's
forward 10 or
September?
15 years, there are going to be regions of the country where you can't get a mortgage because of the, you can't get a mortgage because of the impact of the challenges of insurance companies just not being able to provide that. Since February, when I asked you that question, home insurance rates have
It's like
continued to
NQ drop,
climb.
Tesla goes
Recent
up.
analysis about climate risk from First Street found that financial burdens from severe weather are driving up household costs and triggering increased mortgage defaults. Now it's at about 8%
Nice.
now, but they project that by 2035, 30% of all foreclosure losses would be related to climate impacts, which is like pretty stunning. Now I realize this is a complicated issue
No,
because
on
insurance
TPT?
is regulated primarily. at the
No,
state
because I
level.
wait till I
So
hit
there are
250.
exceptions. Flood insurance and terrorism insurance are exceptions. But I wonder if you.
But you put it in there so the money's safe in case you get tilted. You know what I mean? You still have your little small payout.
Which is a big
I cashed out the other day, so I just put $100 in, so I need like at least
place where housing
150
costs
more
are
to cash
rising
out.
higher than the general inflation rate right now.
Many things are driving up housing costs.
Yes, that's true.
It's a great
Yeah,
mortgage
it adds
rate,
up
but
though.
it's also zoning costs and
Oh,
things
that's
like this
right.
for properties that are near the water, particularly for
Watch
example.
when I
in
long, it's gonna
Florida,
dump. Watch.
in property insurance just
I'm gonna
gets
try a
more
quick
and more
long.
to the point where it almost makes sense to itself.
I'm out at 49.
And that's because
Order
of just
filled.
And I'm out. There we go.
companies are just putting that in their models and they're charging what they need to
Yeah, I
to
don't trust this
charge
market.
to make a return. And if they can't get that, then they'll leave that state. So that seems to be what's happening.
I know I'm out of time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
You're always like.
That's why they call me the Velvet Hammer, sir.
I didn't say that you weren't harsh as well. It was nice when you do.
Wish I have some more giveaways to give out, but I'm out.
Send them around, remind me not to give Tina that compliment in the middle of that.
Giveaway did 80 something accounts this
Make
month.
certain I understand this correctly. Control inflation.
Yeah.
And maximize. That's it.
Now I've been trying to do a lot more straight to funded, so save people money from paying for activation.
Livable wage, is that something that factors into your
You
conversation?
should try that
about
one,
us as a
Gambit.
country?
What is it?
But most Americans
Day Trader,
are
straight to
substandard
funded, the
wages.
giveaway.
Does that
I
change
did
your
on
calculus?
Twitter. You wanna check it?
Does it change
You might win. You never know.
Is it, in other words, is it full employment is full employment? Every American has a
Let me
job,
find it.
but they're making minimum wage versus having a family.
But they use
sustaining wage.
Project
Does that
X, so
matter
you're not
to the
used to it, so don't do it.
It would matter to the country a lot.
I'm saying, does it matter to the
Oh, you
Federal
do like
Reserve
Project
when you're
X?
making
Yeah.
Honestly, we don't really have.
Well,
the
let me
tools to
see if
affect
the
that.
straight to
Right,
funded
so
is
it
intraday or
doesn't factor in.
trailing
Now, that's
drawdown.
different.
Intraday it'd be
The people in
not
this country elect
good.
us to make certain that their wages are higher than inflation. And by the way, the records show
Yeah.
that real wages are up this year. So we've done that, not the Federal Reserve.
Oh no, it's end of day, so it's good.
Inflation.
Well, we've helped control inflation, which
Well,
is part of that.
we're going to jump right into the inflation conversation. There's different kinds of inflation.
Yeah, just
There's different
retweet it and try to win.
witnesses to inflation.
It's gonna be
There's
two winners. You never know.
actors to inflation. Would you agree? Sure. Okay. So let's talk about the actors. Did you comment during COVID lockdowns that was a bad idea? Meaning that
Dude, why don't you make
the
another
entire
account
economy?
since this,
It's not a
you know what I mean, like make a fake account
I hit the button
so you can
here.
just retweet
Alright,
stuff.
COVID wasn't that. We just shut down the economy. Any comments on that?
Of course not.
Okay, so you didn't comment on that. Vaccine mandate, something that my Democrat colleagues loved. If you don't get the vaccine, you're a terrible
No,
human
there's still a
being. You can't
delay.
go to work. In fact, Joe Biden was overruled by the Supreme Court because he said that if you work in a company with more than 100 employees and you don't get vaccinated, the company has the ability to fire you.
So if you blow your live, what happened? Do you
That
get
obviously is a
banned?
supply chain shock. Would you agree? If I'm running an assembly line, and now I
Yeah,
have
ask
to put my
him,
people
can he
6 feet
still trade on
apart,
Tradeify
now
or
I
is he
have
like
people,
gone?
quitting or
Because
not coming
MFU,
to
they
work
ban you
or
for like a couple months or
That's a supply
forever.
chain shock. Would you agree?
I mean, it's a medical thing that you.
No, but it's a supply chain.
George Washington.
I'm asking you to make a medical decision. I'm asking you to make a Fed decision on inflation.
Way outside anything we would come.
But it affects inflation because supply.
I don't think I have
Are
them.
you saying that supply chain shocks don't affect inflation?
They do, but that
Okay, they do. So that's clearly one. If you ban the export of liquid natural gas, which is going to cause the commodity price to go up, would that supply shock not also cause inflation?
potentially could.
Yeah. So, and now the ranking member loves to talk about billionaire corporations, that are going to get away with paying taxes, right? Who pays corporate taxes? Like, who pays it? Is it like some obscure Wizard of Oz character behind the curtain that is a corporate entity that pays taxes? Who pays taxes?
I mean, ultimately, it's shareholders and
His
customers.
market is
So I'm going to
boring.
read you a line. You tell me this is accurate. On taxes, it's not possible
I'm
to
gonna end
know
my
in
stream.
advance precisely how the cost will be shared for taxes.
Yeah, I was deep red, dude. I
But
was
it is
back
highly
holding those
likely that
shorts.
consumers will pay a meaningful share. Meaning, if the ranking member has to pay, let's just tax corporations at 100%. Why not? Be fantastic.
That's a good way to cheat, though. Let's split it. Ah, shit, I'm still on YouTube. Man, I need to cut this shit off.
Tax or repair? What are you talking about now?
If the income tax for American corporations goes up, they will share.
Can't
that
edit
tax
when it's
burden
live.
with their consumers.
Y'all have a good day.